Hey there, Wasteland Wanderer. Before we begin this journey through the irradiated ruins of companionship and loyalty, do me a favor. Hit that like button and subscribe, because trust me, you're going to want to follow where this story leads. The Wasteland has many tales to tell, and this is one you won't want to miss. Picture this. The year is 2077. Nuclear fire rains from the sky. Civilization collapses in mere hours. 200 years pass. The world is ash and bone and twisted metal. The survivors cling to life in a landscape that wants them dead. Raiders hunt the weak. Radiation poisons the air. Mutated horrors lurk in the shadows. And yet, against all odds, against every law of survival that screams to trust no one, to look out only for yourself, people still choose to follow strangers into the unknown. Why? What makes a ghoul mechanic, rotting and ancient, decide to leave his safe haven and follow a courier he barely knows into certain danger? What drives a woman whose entire world burned 2 centuries ago to wake from cryosleep and pledge her life to someone else's cause? Why does a synth, designed to be the perfect infiltrator, choose loyalty over programming? Why does a dog, time and time again across different wastelands, find a wanderer and stay until the very end? This isn't just a story about companions. This is a story about what it means to not be alone when the whole world has ended. This is about trust in an age of betrayal. About hope in an era of despair. About family when bloodlines mean nothing and survival means everything. From the ruins of New California to the toxic fog of Far Harbor. From the Mojave desert's scorching heat to the irradiated hell of the capital wasteland. Across decades, across wastelands, across every variation of human, mutant, robot, and beast, one truth remains. No matter how strong you are, no matter how well armed, no matter how clever or ruthless or determined, the wasteland will break you if you face it alone. But here's what they don't tell you in the vaults. Here's what the Brotherhood of Steel keeps classified. Here's what every caravan guard knows, but never speaks aloud. Sometimes the person walking beside you, the one who saved your life a dozen times, the one you'd die for without hesitation, is hiding something. A past too dark to confess. A secret that could destroy everything. A truth that, once revealed, will force you to choose between loyalty and survival. Imagine this moment. You're standing in a bombed-out building, Geiger counter clicking its deadly rhythm. Your companion, the one who's been with you since the beginning, finally speaks the words they've been holding back. And suddenly you understand. Everything you thought you knew was a lie. The person beside you isn't who they claim to be. Their entire story, carefully constructed, falls apart in seconds. And now you have a choice to make. A choice that will define not just their fate, but your own soul. Do you pull the trigger? Do you walk away? Or do you stand by them, knowing what it might cost? This is the question every wasteland wanderer faces. Not with enemies. Not with raiders or mutants or machines, but with the ones they trust most. Because in the Fallout universe, the cruelest irony is this. The people who save your life might be the ones who doom you, and the ones you'd kill for might be the ones who betray you. We're about to meet every single companion who has ever walked the wasteland in the Fallout games. From the very first games, where a simple tribal warrior searched for his lost sister, to the latest wastelands, where astronauts wake from centuries of sleep into a world they can't recognize. We'll hear their stories, their tragedies, their secrets, the moments that broke them and the moments that made them choose you. Some of them are heroes. Some of them are monsters pretending to be human. Some of them are humans pretending to be monsters. And some of them don't even know which one they are. There's a sniper who mercy killed his own wife. A scientist trapped in a robot body for 200 years, desperate to feel human touch. A soldier who discovers he's the very thing he was designed to hunt. A grandmother whose mind is splitting apart, forced to choose between her memories and her sanity. A synth detective with a dead man's memories, wondering if he's real at all. And through it all, one constant companion. A dog, always a dog. Loyal when humans fail. Faithful when the world burns. Following wanderers across centuries, across different wastelands, always the same and always different. The only truly innocent soul in a world gone mad. So settle in, wanderer. We're about to walk through every wasteland, meet every soul brave enough or broken enough to follow a stranger into the dark. And by the end, you'll understand something that every veteran of the wasteland knows. In a world where everything has been taken, where trust is the rarest currency and loyalty the most valuable treasure, the companions you choose don't just help you survive. They define who you become. Let's start at the very beginning. Not the Great War, not the moment the bombs fell, but earlier. A moment a game developer sat down and asked a simple question. In a post-apocalyptic role-playing game where you wander alone through radioactive ruins, should you actually be alone? The answer to that question would shape decades of gaming and create some of the most memorable characters in video game history. The Fallout franchise began in 1997 with a simple premise. You are a vault dweller. Your underground home is dying. You must venture into the wasteland above, a place of raiders and mutants and radiation, to find the water chip that will save your people. You are alone. Or at least you're supposed to be. But the developers understood something crucial. The wasteland is terrifying. It's hostile. It's vast and empty, and filled with things that want to kill you. Walking through it alone, while atmospheric, becomes isolating. The player needed to feel the weight of the world, yes, but they also needed hope. They needed proof that survival was possible. They needed companions. The companion system in Fallout wasn't just a gameplay mechanic. It was a narrative tool. Each person who joined your journey represented a different facet of post-apocalyptic survival, a different philosophy, a different way of coping with the end of the world. Some sought redemption for past sins. Some searched for lost family members. Some simply needed purpose in a purposeless world. And some, the robots and the animals, provided companionship without judgment or agenda. As the series evolved from Fallout 1 through Fallout 2. Then into the three-dimensional worlds of Fallout 3, New Vegas, Fallout 4, and even the online experiment of Fallout 76. The companion system grew more complex. Early companions were simple followers with basic artificial intelligence. They'd follow you into battle, occasionally die permanently, and offer limited dialogue. By Fallout 4, companions had become fully realized characters with their own moral codes, personal quests, relationship systems, and the ability to fall in love with the player character. But let's talk about what really matters. The wasteland itself. Because you can't understand the companions without understanding the world that forged them. Picture the post-nuclear American landscape. Once mighty cities are now skeletal ruins, their skyscrapers crumbling monuments to human ambition and folly. The ground glows faintly in some places, deadly radiation seeping from craters where bombs struck. What little water remains is often poisoned. The air itself can kill you in certain areas. Two-headed cows graze on mutated grass. Giant insects, enlarged by radiation, hunt in packs. And everywhere, scattered like forgotten toys, are the remnants of the old world. Rusted cars, broken televisions, skeletal remains still clutching pre-war possessions they died trying to protect. This is where your companions live. This is what they wake up to every single day. This is normal to them. The new California wasteland, where it all began, stretches from the ruins of Los Angeles to the outskirts of San Francisco. Small settlements cluster around sources of clean water. The new California Republic struggles to rebuild civilization from scratch, creating laws and government in a world that forgot what those words meant. But beyond their borders, chaos reigns. Raiders form savage tribes. Super mutants, the failed creations of a mad scientist's dream of forced evolution, war among themselves. And in hidden bunkers, the remnants of the pre-war government plot to reclaim America by exterminating anyone whose DNA was tainted by radiation, which means almost everyone. The capital Wasteland, the ruins of Washington, D.C., is even more brutal. The seat of American power became ground zero for multiple nuclear strikes. The city is a maze of collapsed metros and irradiated rubble. The Potomac River runs with toxic sludge. And in the center of it all, super mutants breed and multiply, kidnapping humans to transform into more of their kind. The Brotherhood of Steel, a techno-religious military order, wages endless war to protect the few remaining settlements. It's a desperate, dying world where clean water is worth killing for. The Mojave Wasteland, surrounding the miraculously intact city of New Vegas, is a different kind of hell. The desert sun bakes the sand to glass in places. Cazadores, mutated wasps the size of dogs, hunt in deadly swarms. The new California Republic and Caesar's Legion, a slaver army that models itself on ancient Rome, march toward war over control of Hoover Dam, and in the shadows, puppet masters pull strings, each believing they alone know what's best for humanity's future. The Commonwealth, the ruins of Boston, is perhaps the most paranoid wasteland of all. Because here, the Institute, a secret organization of scientists operating from an underground facility, creates synthetic humans, synths, perfect replicas of people, down to their memories and personalities. They walk among the survivors, indistinguishable from real humans. Anyone could be a synth. Your neighbor, your friend, your lover. Trust becomes impossible when you can't even trust that someone is human. The Institute sends synths to the surface to kidnap people, replacing them with synthetic duplicates. Entire settlements live in terror, never knowing who's real and who's a machine. And then there's Appalachia. West Virginia, the setting of Fallout 76. This wasteland is unique because, for years after the bombs fell, it was empty of human life. A plague released from a government bunker killed everyone. The robots left behind continued their programmed tasks, serving drinks in bars with no customers, guarding facilities with nothing to protect. When the vault dwellers finally emerged, they found a hauntingly beautiful wasteland. Forests attempting to regrow, wildlife returning, but also scorched beasts, massive mutated bats that spread a crystalline plague that turns living things into mindless husks. A world trying to heal itself while simultaneously being consumed by new horrors. This is the stage. These are the wastelands. And somewhere in each of these desperate, dangerous, dying worlds, people made the choice to follow a stranger, to trust when trust could get you killed, to believe when belief seemed foolish. Why? What drives that decision? What makes someone look at a wanderer, someone they just met, someone who by all logic could be a raider or worse, and think, yes, I'll follow this person into the unknown. I'll risk my life for them. I'll share my darkest secrets with them. I'll become part of their story. The answer is different for each companion. But there's a thread that connects them all. A fundamental truth about the human condition, or the ghoul condition, or the synth condition, or even the canine condition. We are not meant to face the darkness alone, even in a world that's ended, especially in a world that's ended. Because when everything else is taken from you, when your home is ash, and your family is bones, and your future is uncertain, sometimes the only thing that keeps you human is the person walking beside you. So let's meet them. Every single one, starting from the very beginning, in the first Fallout game where the companion system was born, where a vault dweller stepped into the harsh California sun and began a tradition that would span decades. The tradition of not facing the wasteland alone. The year is 2161, 84 years after the bombs fell. You emerge from Vault 13, blinking in the harsh California sunlight with a simple mission. Find a replacement water chip within 150 days or everyone you've ever known dies of thirst. The wasteland stretches before you, vast and merciless. You have a pistol, some basic supplies, and absolutely no idea what you're walking into. The first settlement you encounter is Shady Sands, a small farming community built from scrap metal and hope. The people here are cautious, but not hostile. They've learned to survive through cooperation, through building something that resembles society in miniature. And here, in this dusty collection of repurposed sheet metal and Brahmin pens, you meet your first potential companion. His name is Ian. He's not impressive at first glance. Just another wastelander with a leather jacket and a rifle. But when you talk to him, when you hear his story, you understand what drives him. Ian was a caravan guard. It's one of the most dangerous jobs in the wasteland because caravans carry everything valuable. Food, water, ammunition, medicine. They're targets for every raider gang within 100 miles. Ian's caravan was ambushed. He watched his friends die. He watched the goods they were protecting get stolen. He survived, but survival came with a price. Guilt, the kind that eats at you in the quiet moments. When you ask Ian to join you, he agrees without much hesitation. Not because he's particularly brave, or because he believes in your mission. He agrees because sitting still means thinking, and thinking means remembering. Better to keep moving. Better to have a purpose, even if that purpose belongs to someone else. Ian carries a .223 pistol, and he's professional about violence in a way that tells you he's seen too much of it. He doesn't crack jokes. He doesn't try to be your friend. He just walks beside you, rifle ready, scanning the horizon for threats. Further into the wasteland, you reach Junktown, a settlement built around an old truck stop. The town is controlled by Gizmo, a crime boss who runs gambling and prostitution, and Killian Darkwater, a shop owner trying to maintain some semblance of law. The tension between order and chaos plays out in every conversation. And tied to a post outside the Crash House Cafe, you find a dog. The owner is dead, killed by raiders, or maybe by the dog itself. Nobody's quite sure, and in the wasteland, nobody investigates too closely. The dog is a blue heeler mix, lean and scarred, with intelligent eyes that track your every movement. You can feed it some iguana on a stick, the wasteland's most dubious food source. The dog eats. The dog follows. Just like that, you have a companion who will never betray you, never question your choices, never ask for anything except food and a chance to tear out the throats of anyone who threatens you. You call him Dogmeat, though whether that's the name he had before or just what feels right in the moment, you're not sure. But that name will echo through wasteland history. Years later, in different places, other wanderers will find other dogs and give them the same name. A tradition born from this moment. A memorial to loyalty in its purest form. Dogmeat doesn't care about your mission. He doesn't understand the water chip or the vault or why any of this matters. He just knows you fed him when he was starving. And in the wasteland, that kind of kindness creates bonds stronger than steel. He'll follow you into raider camps, into mutant lairs, into places where death is certain. And he'll die defending you without a second's hesitation, because that's what dogs do. They love unconditionally in a world that's forgotten what unconditional means. In Junktown, you also meet Tycho, and his story is different. Tycho wears the signature armor of the Desert Rangers, a law enforcement organization that tried to maintain order in Nevada after the bombs fell, tried, and failed. The Rangers were overwhelmed by the sheer scale of chaos. Their numbers dwindled. Their mission became impossible. Tycho is one of the last, wandering west into California, looking for something he can't quite name. Purpose, maybe. Or just proof that trying to do good in a world gone bad isn't completely pointless. Tycho is older, weathered, with the kind of calm that comes from seeing everything and being surprised by nothing. He's killed raiders and helped settlers and buried friends. He knows the Wasteland like some people know prayer. When he joins you, it's not out of desperation like Ian or animal instinct like Dogmeat. Tycho joins because he recognizes something in you. Potential, maybe. Or just another person stupid enough to believe things can get better. Either way, he's seen enough people give up. He'd like to see what happens when someone doesn't. The Boneyard. The Ruins of Los Angeles introduces you to two more companions from vastly different worlds. The city is a war zone. The regulators control some territories. The Blades, a gang that's evolved into something resembling a militia, control others. The Gunrunners manufacture weapons in a fortified factory. And scattered throughout are the Followers of the Apocalypse, an organization that believes knowledge, not violence, is the key to rebuilding civilization. Katya is a follower, trained in unarmed combat, which in the Wasteland is either incredibly brave or incredibly foolish. Probably both. The followers oppose the use of excessive technology and weapons, believing that humanity's reliance on advanced destruction is what led to the Great War in the first place. Katya isn't naive about violence. She knows it's necessary sometimes. She just believes it shouldn't be the first solution. When she joins you, she brings a different perspective. A reminder that strength isn't always measured in firepower. And then there's Tandy, though her time with you is brief. She's the daughter of a radish, the leader of Shady Sands. When raiders kidnap her, you mount a rescue. Tandy is young, but she's not helpless. She's smart and brave and angry at being treated like property. When you free her and she temporarily travels with you, she's seeing the Wasteland for the first time beyond her settlement's walls. The experience changes her. Years later, she became the founder and first president of the new California Republic, the largest nation to emerge from the ashes of the old world. That brief journey with a vault dweller showed her what was possible, that the Wasteland didn't have to stay broken. These companions, these first followers, established something fundamental. They weren't just allies in combat. They were voices, perspectives. Each one represented a different answer to the question of how to survive when the world has ended. Ian chose movement over memory. Dogmeat chose loyalty over self-preservation. Tycho chose purpose over despair. Katya chose philosophy over pragmatism. And Tandy chose possibility over acceptance. The Vault Dweller succeeded in their mission. Found the water chip. Saved Vault 13. Then got exiled anyway, because the Overseer feared they'd been contaminated by the outside world, by ideas and experiences. That might make the other Vault Dwellers question their underground prison. So the Vault Dweller walked back into the Wasteland, and many of their companions chose to follow. Not because they had to. Because in a world where everything is temporary and death is permanent, the bonds you forge are the only things that last. This was just the beginning. The template had been created. Future games would expand on it, complicate it, give companions deeper stories and harder choices. But the foundation was laid here, in the first fallout, where a handful of Wastelanders looked at a Vault Dweller in a blue jumpsuit and decided that whatever came next, they'd rather face it together than alone. 80 years pass. The Wasteland evolves. The new California Republic expands, bringing law and taxes and bureaucracy to communities that aren't sure they want any of those things. Super mutants, leaderless after the Master's death, scatter and search for meaning. Technology salvagers dig deeper into pre-war ruins. And in a tribal village called Arroyo, built by the vault dwellers' descendants, a new crisis emerges. The village is dying. Crops fail. Water dries up. The eldest sends the chosen one, the tribal descendant of the original vault dweller, into the wasteland to find a Garden of Eden creation kit, a device that can restore blighted land. It's 2241, and the wasteland has changed, but it's still just as deadly. Maybe more so, because now civilization's thin veneer makes the violence underneath seem more shocking. Your first companion finds you in Klamath, a small settlement of trappers and traders. His name is Sulik, and he's searching for his sister Kurisu. She was taken by slavers, sold into a system that treats human beings as livestock. Sulik is tribal like you, but from a different culture. He carries a spear and speaks of spirits and totems. He has a bone through his nose and patterns shaved into his hair. To NCR citizens, he looks primitive, backward, but Sulik is neither. He's a warrior and a believer, and when he agrees to travel with you, it's because he recognizes kinship. You're both outsiders in this new wasteland, both searching for something precious that was taken. Sulik talks to his spirit totem, a small bone and leather fetish he wears. To some, this seems like superstition. But in a world where nuclear radiation creates two-headed cows and transforms people into immortal ghouls, who's to say spirits aren't real? Sulik's faith grounds him. It gives him strength when strength should be impossible. And unlike many companions, he's genuinely cheerful. He jokes. He laughs. He makes the journey less grim simply by refusing to let the wasteland's cruelty crush his spirit. You never find Kurisu during your travels. That wound stays open. But Sulik keeps searching, keeps hoping, because hope is its own form of resistance. In the den, a wretched hive of addicts and criminals where jet addiction has ravaged an entire generation, you find Vic. He's not there by choice. Vic is a trader and radio repairman from Klamath, and he made the mistake of being useful. Metzger, the slaver boss, grabbed him and put him to work. When you arrive, Vic is property. You can buy his freedom for 1,000 caps, win it by killing Metzger, or just leave him there to rot. The choice says something about who you are. If you free him, Vic is grateful, but not sentimental. He's a practical man who understands the wasteland runs on transactions. You did something for him, so he'll do something for you. He knows about Vault 13. He's been there. He sold a water flask to a man in power armor. This information matters, though you don't know how much yet. Vic is useful because he can repair almost anything. In a world where replacement parts don't exist anymore, someone who can make broken things work is worth their weight in ammunition. He's also sarcastic and a little bit cowardly, which makes him more real. Not everyone in the wasteland is a hero. Some people are just trying to survive and will take the path of least resistance whenever possible. Vault City, a sterile community of vault dwellers who never stopped being vault dwellers, is where you meet Cassidy. He runs a bar. He drinks too much of his own product. He has a heart condition that will probably kill him before raiders get the chance. And when you ask him to come with you, this old, tired, sick bartender says yes. Cassidy used to run a caravan company. Built it from nothing, made it successful, gave people jobs and purpose. Then raiders destroyed it all in a single night. Killed his people, burned his Brahmin, took everything he'd spent years building. He survived, but surviving without purpose is just slow dying. Cassidy doesn't expect to live long. His heart gives him trouble. Every day could be his last. But that's exactly why he agrees to travel with you. Better to die doing something meaningful than to die slowly behind a bar, serving drinks to Vault City's entitled citizens who look down on wastelanders like him. Cassidy's voice is gravelly, worn down by whiskey and disappointment. But he's pragmatic and experienced, and he'll tell you when your plans are stupid, which they often are. He doesn't sugarcoat reality. The wasteland is brutal and unfair, and most attempts to change it end in failure. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't try. It just means you should go in with your eyes open. Decades later, his daughter Cass will walk the Mojave with the same attitude. The Cassidy bloodline doesn't do optimism, but they do stubborn persistence, and in the wasteland, that's more valuable when you meet Goris. And everything you thought you understood about the wasteland shifts. Goris is a Deathclaw. Deathclaws are the wasteland's apex predators. Created by the military before the war as biological weapons, they're faster than humans, stronger than supermutants, and smart enough to hunt in packs. They're living nightmares with claws that can tear through combat armor. When wastelanders see a Deathclaw, they run. If they're lucky, they survive. If they're not, they die screaming. But Goris is different. He's part of an intelligent pack living in Vault 13, the same vault your ancestor came from. Through a combination of genetic mutation and the Enclave's twisted experiments, some Deathclaws developed human-level intelligence. They learned to speak, to think abstractly, to philosophize. Goris wears a brown robe that hides his true nature. Underneath, he's still a Deathclaw, still capable of tearing enemies apart with terrifying efficiency. But he's also a scholar. He reads. He ponders existence. He questions what it means to be a monster when you have the mind of a philosopher. Traveling with Goris is surreal. Here's this robed figure walking beside you, discussing morality and purpose. And then combat starts, and the robe comes off, and suddenly there's a Deathclaw shredding everything in sight. His existence raises uncomfortable questions. If Deathclaws can be intelligent and peaceful, what does that make the humans who hunt them? Who's really the monster? The tragedy of Goris comes later. The Enclave, the remnants of the pre-war government, sees intelligent Deathclaws as an abomination. They massacre his pack. Goris returns to Vault 13 to find his family dead. Every single one. He's suddenly the last of his kind, a philosopher monster with no one left who understands what he is. The grief doesn't break him, but it changes him, makes him quieter, more withdrawn. A reminder that in the wasteland, hope is always temporary. Marcus is another impossibility. He's a super mutant, one of the Master's army. The Master believed he could force humanity to evolve by dipping people in vats of FEV, the forced evolutionary virus. It created super mutants, massive beings of muscle and rage. Most lost their intelligence in the process, becoming violent and simple. But some, like Marcus, kept their minds intact. When the Master died, and his dream of unity through forced mutation collapsed, Marcus was left searching for a new purpose. He found it in Broken Hills, a settlement where humans, ghouls, and mutants lived together. Marcus became the sheriff, proving that coexistence was possible if people tried. But the peace is fragile, always one incident away from collapse. When you meet him, Marcus is tired. Not physically. Super mutants are incredibly resilient, but emotionally. He's tired of being the bridge between species that hate each other. He's tired of being the exception that proves the rule. Traveling with you gives him a break from that responsibility. Marcus is philosophical like Goris, but where Goris is introspective, Marcus is practical. He's seen the best and worst of humanity and mutant kind. He knows peace is hard work, and violence is easy. He also knows that for all the NCR's talk of progress, they're still capable of tremendous cruelty. His friendship with Jacob, a Brotherhood of Steel paladin he once fought against, proves that enemies can become brothers if they choose to see each other as people first. Years later, you'll find Marcus again in Jacobstown near New Vegas, still trying to help super mutants find purpose, still believing that despite everything, coexistence is worth fighting for. His persistence across games makes him one of the Wasteland's true heroes. Not because he's powerful, though he is, but because he never stops trying to make things better, even when the world gives him every reason to quit. The companions of Fallout 2 were deeper than their predecessors. They had complex backstories and moral philosophies. Sulik brought tribal wisdom and unshakable loyalty. Vic brought pragmatism and technical skill. Cassidy brought bitter experience and dry humor. Goris brought impossible contradiction, a thinking monster in a world that doesn't believe such things exist. And Marcus brought proof that even the Master's greatest mistakes could choose redemption. Each one made the journey less lonely. Each one proved that family isn't about blood or species. It's about who stands beside you when everything goes wrong. And in the Wasteland, everything always goes wrong. The capital Wasteland is different, harsher, more broken. Where California had settlements rebuilding into something resembling civilization, Washington, D.C. is still dying 200 years after the bombs fell. The Potomac runs green with radiation. The National Mall is a super mutant stronghold. The monuments to American glory are tombs now. And the city that once ruled a nation can't even provide clean water to its survivors that you emerge from Vault 101. Not on a mission to save your vault, but running from it. Your father abandoned the vault, breaking its most sacred rule. The Overseer wants you dead for his crimes. So you step into the sunlight with nothing but questions and the desperate hope that somewhere in this hellscape, your father is still alive. The first companion you meet isn't a person. It's a dog. Of course it's a dog. In Springvale, near a scrapyard filled with rusted cars and broken dreams, you find him standing over his dead owner. The man's body is already cold. Raiders, probably. Or maybe just the Wasteland's casual cruelty. The dog doesn't understand why his human won't get up. He just knows he's alone now. You approach carefully. The dog could be feral, dangerous. But when he sees you, something in his posture changes. Recognition, maybe. Or just desperate hope that anyone will stay. You give him some food. He eats. He follows. And just like that, decades after the first dog meat made his choice in Junktown, another dog chooses another wanderer. This dog meat is different from his predecessor, but the same in all the ways that matter. He's loyal without condition. He'll charge super mutants 10 times his size. He'll sniff out enemies and mines and supplies. He doesn't care if you're good or evil, saint or monster. You fed him when he was alone, and that's enough. In the capital Wasteland, where trust is suicide and everyone has an agenda, Dogmeat's simplicity is profound. He asks for nothing except the chance to follow you into whatever hell comes next. If you have the Broken Steel add-on, which continues the story past the original ending, Dogmeat gains something extraordinary. The puppy's perk. If he dies, a puppy appears at Vault 101's entrance. Same name, same loyalty. It's a game mechanic, sure, but it's also poetry. The idea that Dogmeat's bloodline continues, that there will always be a dog waiting for a wanderer who needs one, speaks to something fundamental about the relationship between humans and the animals that chose to love us. Underworld is a settlement inside the Museum of History, and it's one of the saddest places in the Wasteland. Ghouls, humans whose bodies were ravaged by radiation but who somehow didn't die, have gathered here. They're immortal, but not invincible. They're rotting slowly, flesh falling from bones, but their minds remain intact. Most humans see them as monsters or as walking corpses. The ghouls see themselves as survivors of a world that doesn't want them anymore. In the Ninth Circle bar, you meet Karen. He's a ghoul, tall and broad, with the kind of presence that makes the room go quiet. He works for Azrukal, the bar owner, but not by choice. Karen is bound by contract, literally. Someone long ago wrote up papers that made Karen property, and whoever holds that contract owns him. Azrukal treats him like a weapon, like a thing, and Karen obeys because the contract compels him to. But here's where it gets complicated. You can buy Karen's contract. Azrukal will sell it for a price, or you can manipulate events to get it cheaper. The moment the contract changes hands, Karen's loyalty transfers instantly and absolutely. If you want, you can tell him to kill Azrukal. Karan will walk over and execute his former master without hesitation, because the contract says to obey whoever holds it, and you hold it now. Traveling with Karen is unsettling. He's incredibly effective in combat. He's loyal to a fault, but that loyalty isn't real. It's programmed, purchased. He has no choice. You can tell him you're destroying the contract, that he's free. He'll say he appreciates it. But even free, he stays. Maybe because freedom is terrifying after so many years of bondage. Maybe because he doesn't know who he is without orders to follow. Or maybe, and this is the heartbreaking possibility, because serving is all he has left. Karen doesn't talk much about his past. He deflects questions with short answers. But the scars on his psyche are visible in everything he does. He's a person trapped in a prison of his own mind, and you can't save him from it, no matter how kind you are. Some wounds don't heal. Some chains remain even after they're broken. Vault 87 is a nightmare. The radiation outside is so intense, it will kill you instantly. Inside, it's worse. This is where the capital Wasteland super mutants are made. The vault was an experiment in viral evolution, and when the bombs fell, the scientists lost control. Now super mutants capture humans and dip them in FEV, creating more of their kind in an endless cycle of forced transformation and madness. Deep in the vault's isolation wing, you find Fawkes. The name is deliberate. Guy Fawkes tried to blow up Parliament. This Fawkes is trapped in a room, alone for years. Decades, maybe. He doesn't know anymore. Time loses meaning in isolation. But unlike every other super mutant in this vault, unlike almost every super mutant in the capital Wasteland, Fawkes is intelligent. He speaks clearly. He reads. He thinks. Before the transformation, Fawkes was human. He doesn't remember much about that life. The mutation damaged those memories, left them fractured and unclear. He knows he was someone, had a name, had a life. But those things are gone now, replaced by green skin and massive strength and a voice that rumbles like thunder. What he kept, impossibly, was his humanity. Not his human form. His humanity. The part that makes someone a person rather than a monster. Fawkes spent his isolation reading every terminal file he could access. He taught himself philosophy. He grappled with questions of identity and morality. He came to a conclusion that separated him from his violent brethren. That being a monster is a choice, not a physical state. That intelligence comes with responsibility. That strength should protect the weak, not prey on them. When you free him, and you must free him to progress. Fawkes helps you retrieve the Garden of Eden creation kit from the heavily radiated chamber that would kill you. He's immune to radiation, a benefit of his mutation. Afterward, he asks to join you, not because he owes you, not because he needs protection, but because in you, he sees the possibility of purpose. A chance to prove that what he is doesn't define who he chooses to be. At the end of the original game, at Project Purity. When someone needs to enter the radiation-filled chamber to activate the purifier and save the capital Wasteland, Fawkes volunteers. He's immune. It's the obvious solution. But the game won't let you accept unless you have broken steel installed. Without it, the game forces you to make the heroic sacrifice yourself, even though sending Fawkes makes infinitely more sense. It's a frustrating design choice, but it does something powerful. It makes Fox's offer of sacrifice mean more. He's willing to take your place, willing to walk into death so you can live. For a being that everyone calls a monster, that's the most human thing imaginable. Paradise Falls is exactly what it sounds like. A slaver base built in a shopping center, surrounded by walls and guards and human misery. The slavers capture people and sell them to whoever has caps. They don't care about age or innocence or pleas for mercy. Flesh is a commodity. Suffering is business. It's one of the most evil places in the Wasteland, and the people who run it don't even have the excuse of insanity. They're just cruel. Clover is one of their products. She was captured young, broken systematically, and conditioned to obey. When you buy her, and you must buy her to recruit her, she follows with eager submission that's deeply disturbing. She's been programmed to love her owners, to see slavery as natural. Her personality is shattered, reconstructed into something that pleases her captors. Traveling with Clover is uncomfortable because you can't undo what was done to her. You can be kind. You can never give her orders that abuse her. But she'll still act like property because that's what she was taught to be. She exists as a dark mirror to Karen. Where his slavery is contractual, hers is psychological. Where he maintains some internal resistance, she's internalized her subjugation completely. The game doesn't offer you a way to heal her. No quest to restore her sense of self. She's just there, a permanent reminder of what the Wasteland does to the vulnerable. Some players refuse to recruit her because buying a person, even to free them, feels too much like participating in the system. Others take her along, hoping that kindness might eventually break through the conditioning. But the game never confirms if it does. These companions, Dogmeat and Karen and Fox and Clover, represent different kinds of loyalty and bondage. One chooses freely. One is bound by paper. One seeks redemption for a form he didn't choose. And one is trapped in a prison of her own mind. Each one walks beside you through the capital Wasteland's ruins, and each one forces you to think about what it means to follow someone. Whether loyalty given without choice is really loyalty at all. Whether freedom means anything to someone who's forgotten what it feels like. The capital Wasteland is cruel. But somehow, in its cruelty, people and dogs and mutants and broken survivors still find reasons to hope. Still find reasons to keep walking. Still find reasons to believe that the person beside them makes the horror bearable. That's not weakness. That's the strongest thing in the world. Megaton is built inside a crater around an unexploded atomic bomb. The logic is Wasteland insane, but somehow the settlement survives. Scrap metal walls keep out raiders. Brahmin provide milk and meat. The Church of Adam worships the bomb in the center of town, believing radiation is holy and detonation would be salvation. It's chaos held together by desperation, and Sheriff Lucas Sims, who tries to maintain order in a place where order shouldn't be possible. Jericho lives in Megaton, but he's not from there. Not really. He's a former raider, which in the capital Wasteland is about as bad as you can be without being enclave. Raiders don't just kill. They torture. They enslave. They make examples of people to spread terror. Jericho did that. He won't apologize for it. Won't claim he's changed or found redemption. He just got old and tired and decided settling down was easier than constant violence. You can only recruit Jericho if your karma is evil. If you've made cruel choices, murdered innocents, stolen from people who had nothing. The game recognizes you as someone who walks the dark path, and only then will Jericho agree to travel with you. He sees kinship in your actions, recognizes someone who understands that the Wasteland doesn't reward mercy. Traveling with Jericho is traveling with someone who's seen the worst of humanity and participated in it. He's pragmatic to the point of nihilism. He doesn't believe in causes or heroes, or redemption arcs. People are violent animals pretending it's civilization, and the Wasteland strips away the pretense. He's effective in combat because he's been in more fights than most people have had meals. He knows how to hurt people, how to read situations, how to survive when survival requires doing terrible things. But here's what's interesting about Jericho. He doesn't encourage evil. He doesn't push you toward cruelty. He just accepts it. He's made peace with what he is, with what he's done, in a way that's almost peaceful. No guilt, no justification. Just acknowledgement. Some companions are about redemption. Jericho is about acceptance. The Wasteland made him what he is, and he stopped pretending that's something to be ashamed of. The Citadel is the Brotherhood of Steel's headquarters in the capital Wasteland, built inside the ruins of the Pentagon. The Brotherhood here is different from their West Coast counterparts. Elder Lyons split from the main organization because he believed in helping people, not just hoarding technology. It caused a schism. Some Brotherhood members stayed loyal to the original mission. Others, the outcasts, left entirely. But Lyons persisted, turning his chapter into something resembling actual protectors rather than tech-obsessed. Isolationists. Star Paladin Cross served with your father years ago. She was there when Project Purity was first attempted. She watched it fail, watched people die, watched your father flee with you to Vault 101 to keep you safe. When you arrive at the Citadel, she recognizes you immediately. You're James's kid. The baby she helped protect has grown into someone walking the same dangerous path their father walked. Cross is a true believer in Elder Lyons's vision. She genuinely thinks the Brotherhood can restore order and protect the innocent. In a wasteland filled with cynics and survivors who've learned to expect nothing, Cross's idealism is jarring. She's older, experienced, scarred from countless battles. She should know better, but she doesn't. She still believes. You can only recruit Cross if your karma is good. If you've helped settlements, protected the weak, made sacrifices for strangers. She won't follow someone who embodies the Wasteland's cruelty. She follows someone who gives her hope that the Brotherhood's mission isn't pointless, that all the fighting and dying and struggling actually matters. In combat, Cross is formidable. Power armor, heavy weapons, years of training. She's a fortress on legs. But more than that, she's steady, reliable. When everything goes wrong, when you're overwhelmed and outgunned, Cross doesn't panic. She's been in worse situations and survived. Her presence is calming in a world of chaos. The complicated part is her unwavering loyalty to the Brotherhood and to Elder Lyons personally. If you make choices that contradict their values, she voiced disapproval. She won't leave, but the disappointment in her voice cuts deeper than anger would. She believed you were better than this. Believed you were the person your father hoped you'd become. Every cruel choice chips away at that belief until you're left wondering if you're proving her right or wrong. Vault 101 is where your story began. It's supposed to be sealed forever, a social experiment in isolation. But you broke that seal when you left. And later, if you return, you find the vault in chaos. Your childhood bully, Butch Deloria, is trying to hold things together while the Overseer cracks down harder on dissent. Butch was terrible to you growing up. Leader of the Tunnel Snakes, the vault's sad excuse for a gang. He tormented you, mocked you, made your early life miserable in the way that teenagers do when they're trying to feel powerful in a powerless situation. But when Rod Roach's attack, when his mother is in danger, Butch comes to you for help. The bully becomes the desperate son, and you have a choice. Help him or let his mother die. If you save her, something shifts in Butch. Not immediately, not dramatically, but gradually you see someone who's been forced to grow up. Later, when the vault situation deteriorates, Butch leaves. He ends up in Rivet City, pending bar at the Muddy Rudder, trying to figure out who he is outside the vault that defined him. You can recruit him there. And traveling with Butch is surreal if you knew him as a kid. He's still got the attitude, still wears the tunnel snake's jacket like armor against a world that's so much bigger and more dangerous than he ever imagined. But he's also vulnerable in a way he never was in the vault. Out here, the tunnel snakes mean nothing. The reputation he built over years evaporated the moment he stepped into the Wasteland. Butch represents something important: growth, change, possibility that the person you were at 15 doesn't have to be the person you are forever. He was a bully because the vault was small and power was measured in who you could intimidate. The Wasteland doesn't care about that. Out here, Butch is just another survivor trying to figure out how to make it to tomorrow. And somehow, improbably, he's chosen to make that journey with you. The person he used to torment is now the person he trusts to keep him alive. There's poetry in that. In the bully and the bullied walking side by side through radioactive ruins, watching each other's backs, because the past matters less than survival. Butch will never be a great companion in terms of combat effectiveness. He's not a trained soldier or a super mutant or a centuries-old ghoul. He's just a guy with a jacket and a switchblade and a desperate desire to prove he's more than what the vault made him, somewhere in the Wasteland. If you're incredibly lucky and you wander the right places at the right times, you might encounter a random event. A military robot, the Mr. Gutsy unit designated RL-3, still operational after 2 centuries. Still following its programming. Still believing America exists and needs defending. Sergeant RL-3 thinks the war is still happening. Thinks there are communists to fight and citizens to protect and a nation to serve. The cognitive dissonance of a robot, programmed with patriotic fervor, wandering a world where the nation it served destroyed itself, is either tragic or darkly hilarious, depending on your perspective. Can hire RL-3 for 1,000 caps, which is expensive for a companion. But what you're really paying for is unwavering mechanical loyalty combined with significant firepower. RL-3 doesn't question orders, doesn't have moral qualms, doesn't care about karma or consequences. It processes the world through pre-war military protocols that stopped being relevant 200 years ago. Traveling with RL-3 is like traveling with a time capsule. It spouts propaganda and military jargon. It sees threats everywhere because it was programmed to be paranoid. And it never, ever questions whether the mission makes sense. To RL-3, having a mission is enough. The robot doesn't understand that the world it was built to protect is gone. Can't understand, really. Understanding would require acknowledging that everything it was programmed to believe was a lie. But maybe that's a mercy. Maybe RL-3 is better off not knowing. Better off believing in an America that never really existed, serving a cause that died in nuclear fire, following orders from a government that's been dust for centuries. At least it has purpose. At least it knows its place in the world. That's more than most Wasteland survivors can say. These companions, Jericho and Cross and Butch in RL-3, represent the spectrum of capital Wasteland survival. The raider who aged out of violence. The soldier who never stopped believing. The bully who had to grow up. The machine that can't. Each one chose to follow you for different reasons. And each one reveals something about who you're becoming in this brutal, unforgiving place. Whether you're the hero Cross believes in, the kindred spirit Jericho recognizes, the friend Butch needed, or just another commander for RL-3 to serve. The Wasteland doesn't care, but they do. And in the end, that's what makes them matter. The Mojave Wasteland is different from anything that came before. Where the capital Wasteland was dying, the Mojave is fighting. The new California Republic pushes east, bringing taxes and laws and the promise of civilization. Caesar's legion marches west, bringing slavery and crucifixion, and the certainty of order through absolute brutality. And in the middle sits New Vegas, a city of lights that somehow survived the nuclear holocaust almost intact, controlled by a mysterious figure who may or may not be a 200-year-old man kept alive by machines. You are a courier. You were shot in the head over a poker chip and left in a shallow grave. You survived. Now you're hunting the man who killed you, and along the way, you're going to determine the fate of the entire region. No pressure. Black Mountain is a radio station controlled by Tabitha, a Nightkin supermutant who's losing her mind to Stealth Boy-induced psychosis. Her broadcasts are insane rambling mixed with threats. The place is dangerous, filled with hostile mutants who'll kill you on sight. But if you're clever, or lucky, or both, you can navigate through and find someone imprisoned at the top. Raul Teada is old. Not Wasteland old. Pre-war old. He's a ghoul, which means he stopped aging sometime after the bombs fell, but before the radiation killed him. He's been alive for over 200 years, watching the world burn and rebuild and burn again. He's seen nations rise and fall. He's outlived everyone he ever loved. Before the war, Raul was living in Mexico when the bombs dropped. He survived. His family didn't. For a while, that was enough to drive him. Revenge, justice. He became a gunslinger, a vaquero, hunting down the raiders who killed his sister. He was good at it. Too good. The violence consumed him until he couldn't remember why he started. Just that he was good at killing, and killing was all he had left. Eventually, Raul stopped. Put away the guns. Became a mechanic. It's a different kind of skill, fixing things instead of breaking them. For decades, he's repaired pre-war technology, kept machines running, made himself useful in a world that sees ghouls as walking corpses or worse. Tabitha captured him because she needed someone to fix her robots. So Raul fixed them, because what else could he do? When you free him, Raul doesn't immediately leap at the chance for adventure. He's tired. He's old. He's been shot at more times than he can count, and he's starting to think. Maybe he's earned the right to just retire somewhere quiet. But he agrees to come along anyway, maybe because being Tabitha's prisoner was worse than traveling with a stranger. Or maybe because, after 200 years of life, he's curious to see how this particular story ends. Raul's companion quest is called Old School Ghoul, and it's about choice. About whether someone who's been violent can ever truly leave that life behind, or if it's always waiting to pull them back. You meet people from Raul's past. People who remember the vaquero who cleaned up towns, who made the wasteland a little less dangerous for a while. They want him to do it again, to take up the guns and be the hero they remember. But Raul's not sure that's who he wants to be anymore. Violence begets violence. The raiders he killed had friends who came for revenge. The people he saved stayed safe only until the next threat arrived. Nothing he did lasted. It was all temporary, and he's so tired of temporary. You can encourage him either way. Tell him the wasteland still needs gunslingers, that his skills are too valuable to waste. Or tell him that fixing things is just as important as breaking them, that the world has enough violence without him adding to it. Whatever you choose shapes who Raul becomes, or maybe just confirms who he already was. At his age, change doesn't come easy. What makes Raul special is his perspective. He's seen everything. Pre-war civilization and its collapse. The Masters' rise and fall. The NCR's birth and expansion. Caesar's legion carving through tribes. He's watched humanity repeat the same mistakes over and over. And his commentary on everything you encounter is delivered with the dry wit of someone who's realized history is just a circle, and we're all running in it. The old Mormon fort in Fremont is one of the oldest standing structures in the area. and it's home to the followers of the apocalypse. They're trying to provide medical care and education to people who can barely afford food. It's idealistic to the point of naivety, trying to fix the wasteland with kindness and knowledge when violence is so much more efficient. But they persist, and Arcade Gannon is one of their doctors. Arcade is educated. Pre-war book educated, which is rare. He's read philosophy and history. He understands medicine and science. He's exactly the kind of person the wasteland needs. But Arcade is also hiding something. He's friendly and helpful, quick with a sarcastic comment, but there's a weight he carries that goes beyond normal wasteland trauma. The secret is his father. Arcade is the son of an Enclave officer. The Enclave, the shadow government that tried to exterminate everyone in the wasteland because they considered them genetically impure. Arcade grew up in that ideology, surrounded by people who genuinely believed that murdering millions was justified for the greater good. His father died before Arcade was old enough to really know him, but the legacy remained. Arcade rejected everything the Enclave stood for, rejected their genocide and their superiority complex and their twisted version of America. He joined the followers specifically because they represented the opposite of everything his father believed. But the guilt remains. The knowledge that his bloodline is soaked in innocent blood, that the armor his father wore, the cause he died for, was monstrous. His companion quest for Auld Lang Syne is about confronting that past. The Enclave remnants, the survivors of the oil rig's destruction, are scattered across the Mojave. They're old now, past their fighting days, trying to live quiet lives away from the violence they once perpetrated. Arcade knows where they are. He stayed in contact, not because he agrees with them, but because they're the only family he has. You can convince them to fight one last time at Hoover Dam, to make a choice about the Mojave's future. They'll ask Arcade to join them, to wear his father's power armor and carry his legacy. The decision tears him apart. These people raised him, cared for him, but they also supported genocide, believed in it. If you're siding with the NCR, Arcade might see it as a chance for redemption, using Enclave training to protect people instead of exterminate them. If you're siding with Caesar's Legion, Arcade will turn on you. He didn't escape one fascist ideology just to support another. And if you betray him, if you sell him to Caesar as a slave, because the game allows you to be that cruel, Arcade ends up as Caesar's personal physician. A brilliant mind wasted ensuring a tyrant lives longer. It's one of the darkest possible endings for any companion. What makes Arcade compelling is his intelligence. He sees the bigger picture, understands that the fight for Hoover Dam isn't just about power or territory. It's about what kind of society the Mojave becomes. Whether it embraces the NCR's flawed democracy, Caesar's brutal autocracy, House's technocratic oligarchy, or true independence with all its chaos. Arcade believes in democracy and education and human rights. He's an idealist in a world that punishes idealism. But he can't stop being what he is any more than he can escape what his father was. The 188 trading post is a crossroads where caravans meet and travelers rest before pushing deeper into the desert. It's relatively safe, which in the Mojave means you probably won't get murdered here. Probably. And standing near the entrance, punching a practice dummy with more violence than practice requires, is Veronica Sandangelo. Veronica is Brotherhood of Steel, but she's not wearing power armor. She's in a dress that's completely impractical for wasteland travel, and she's punching things because it helps her think. Or maybe because she's angry and hitting things is therapeutic. Probably both. The Brotherhood in the Mojave is dying. They're locked in Hidden Valley, sealed inside a bunker, too afraid to venture out because the NCR has killed too many of them. They're sitting on a treasure trove of technology, hoarding it, while the world outside fights over scraps. Veronica sees the insanity of this. The Brotherhood is supposed to preserve technology for humanity's benefit, but they're so obsessed with keeping it from others, but they're not using it themselves. They're going extinct out of stubbornness. Veronica tried to argue for change, tried to convince the elders that the Brotherhood needs to adapt or die. They refused, told her to be patient, to trust the old ways. So Veronica goes on supply runs, which gives her an excuse to leave the bunker, to see the Mojave, to remember that there's a world outside the Brotherhood's self-imposed prison. She's also dealing with personal loss. She was in love with a woman named Christine. They were together for years, as close as two people can be. But the Brotherhood forbade it, not because they were both women, but because Christine was a scribe, considering leaving to join the followers of the apocalypse. The Brotherhood doesn't allow departure. It's for life. So they forced Christine and Veronica apart, and Veronica hasn't seen her since. When you meet Veronica, she's lonely. Isolated from the organization she dedicated her life to, separated from the woman she loved, watching her family suffocate themselves out of pride. She joins you because you're going places, doing things, making a difference. Everything she wants to do, but the Brotherhood won't let her. When you meet Veronica, she's lonely. Isolated from the organization she dedicated her life to, separated from the woman she loved, watching her family suffocate themselves out of pride. She joins you because you're going places, doing things, making a difference. Everything she wants to do, but the Brotherhood won't let her. Her companion quest, I Could Make You Care, is heartbreaking. Veronica believes she can prove to the Brotherhood that change is necessary. She takes you to find technology, to show the elders that the Wasteland has moved on without them. Maybe if they see proof, they'll listen. They don't. The Brotherhood is too entrenched in tradition, too afraid of the world. And depending on your choices, you can make things even worse. The Van Graffs and the Silver Rush, weapons dealers with energy weapons the Brotherhood wants, can become a target. The Brotherhood might launch an attack. People die. And Veronica is left holding the pieces of the family she tried to save. There's an ending where Veronica leaves the Brotherhood entirely, where she finally accepts that some things can't be fixed. That loyalty to a dying institution isn't loyalty at all. It's just fear of being alone. She joins the followers of the apocalypse, the organization Christine wanted to join, and maybe there's peace in that, in honoring what they had by continuing what Christine believed in. But there's also an ending where she stays, where despite everything, despite the Brotherhood's refusal to change, despite watching them march toward extinction, Veronica can't leave. Because family is family, even when family is wrong. Even when staying means dying with them. Veronica is funny and tough and deeply sad. She jokes to avoid crying. She punches things to avoid thinking. And she follows you because you represent possibility. The chance that maybe, somehow, things can be different. That the Wasteland doesn't have to keep repeating the same mistakes. That love and loyalty and hope aren't just naive fantasies, even when everything suggests they are. Novak is a small settlement built around a giant dinosaur, a pre-war roadside attraction that somehow survived nuclear annihilation. The dinosaur's mouth serves as a sniper nest, and sitting up there, watching the desert through a scope, is Craig Boone. He's NCR, or was. First Recon, which means he was one of their best. Now he just sits up there, silent and dangerous, watching for threats that may or may not come. Boone doesn't talk much. When he does, his words are clipped, economical, like he's rationing them. You learn quickly that he's looking for something, someone, the person responsible for his wife's disappearance. Her name was Carla. She was everything to him, the one good thing in his life. And someone in Novak sold her to slavers. You can help him find out who. It requires investigation, conversation, piecing together who was where and when. And when you identify the culprit, you bring them to a specific spot at night. You put them in Boone's crosshairs, and then Boone executes them. One shot. Clean. Professional. The way he was trained. That's how Boone joins you. Not out of gratitude, though there's some of that, but because now he has nowhere else to go. The person he was hunting is dead. Carla is still gone. And Novak, the place where she was taken from him, is too full of ghosts. So he walks with you into the desert, rifle on his back, saying nothing, because there's nothing left to say. What you learn as you travel together is that Boone's guilt goes deeper than Carla's kidnapping. He was at Bitter Springs. The NCR was hunting con raiders, a savage tribe that had been attacking caravans and settlements. First Recon was providing overwatch. When the cons moved through the canyon, the order came down. Fire. Eliminate the target. Boone followed orders. He's a soldier. Following orders is what soldiers do. But the people running through that canyon weren't just raiders. They were families, women, children. The great cons had brought everyone, and the NCR killed them all. Boone's rifle, the same one he used to protect people, was used to massacre innocents. And he can't unknow that. Can't unsee the bodies. Can't unhear the screaming. Carla knew. He told her, and she didn't judge him. She understood that he was following orders, that war is hell, that good people sometimes do terrible things. Her acceptance was his anchor. When she was taken, when she was sold into slavery to Caesar's legion, that anchor disappeared. And Boone realized something that broke him. He'd killed innocent children, and he couldn't save his own wife. There's more. After Carla was sold, someone found her. Someone who loved Boone brought information. She was still alive, being moved by the Legion. There was time to mount a rescue. But what they found wasn't really Carla anymore. The Legion had broken her, used her, destroyed the person she was. And the person who found her, who loved Boone enough to show him mercy he didn't deserve, shot Carla before Boone could see what they'd done to her. Some players theorized that Boone himself killed her, that he found her, saw what the Legion had done, and mercy killed the woman he loved because letting her live like that would have been crueler. The game never confirms it. Boone won't talk about it, but the weight he carries suggests it might be true, that the last thing he did for his wife was end her suffering. And now he lives with that forever. His companion quest, I Forgot to Remember to Forget, takes you back to Bitter Springs, forces Boone to confront what happened there, to face the survivors, to decide whether he's a monster who followed orders or a soldier who made an impossible choice, whether redemption is possible or if some sins are too great to wash away. The resolution depends on you, on what you tell him. You can help Boone see that he's more than his worst moment, that Bitter Springs was a tragedy, but not entirely his fault, that following orders doesn't absolve guilt, but doesn't define him either. Or you can confirm his worst fears, that he's a killer, that Carla's death was punishment for Bitter Springs, that he deserves every bit of pain he feels. Boone in combat is devastating. He can one-shot kill enemies from incredible distances. His perk, Spotter, marks hostile targets for you. He's a professional, efficient, deadly, but every shot is also a reminder of Bitter Springs, of Carla, of all the ways his skills have brought death instead of protection. He's the most effective killer in your arsenal, and he hates himself for it. Jacobstown is a settlement in the mountains where Marcus, the super mutant from Fallout 2, has created a haven for his kind. Super mutants and Nightkin trying to live peacefully, away from humans who want them dead. It's not going well. The Nightkin are going insane. Stealth boy addiction has destroyed their minds. They hear voices, see things that aren't there, become violent without warning, Lily Bowen is one of them. She's massive, even for a super mutant. Blue-skinned, powerful, and when you meet her, she's talking to herself. Or not herself. To Leo. Leo is the voice in her head. The violent, paranoid personality that emerges when the stealth boy psychosis takes over. Leo wants to hurt people. Wants to fight. Wants blood. But Lily is also a grandmother. Not metaphorically. Before the mutation, before the Master's Army dipped her in FEV and turned her into a monster, Lily was a human woman with grandchildren. She was 75 years old when it happened. Old enough to have lived a full life. Old enough to have memories of birthday parties and bedtime stories and all the small moments that make a life. Meaningful. The mutation didn't erase those memories. They're still there, fractured and confused, but present. Lily still thinks of herself as a grandmother. She calls you dearie and Jimmy and Pumpkin. She worries about whether you're eating enough, staying safe, getting rest. In her mind, you're one of her grandchildren. The specifics are fuzzy, but the love is real. The tragedy is Leo. The stealth boy-induced madness is literally splitting her personality. When Leo takes over, Lily becomes violent, dangerous. She doesn't remember what Leo does. Doesn't know how many people she's hurt. And Leo is getting stronger. The more the Nightkin psychosis progresses, the more often Leo emerges, and the less often Lily can push him back down. Her companion quest, Lily and Leo, forces an impossible choice. Dr. Henry at Jacobstown has developed medication that can help, but it comes with trade-offs. A high dose will suppress Leo, will keep Lily safe and stable, but it will also erase her memories. She forget her grandchildren, forget her human life, forget everything that makes her Lily instead of just another super mutant. A low dose lets her keep the memories, but doesn't fully control Leo. She'll still have episodes, still be dangerous, still hurt people she doesn't mean to hurt. And there's a middle option, a half dose that tries to balance both, but it's not perfect either. You decide. You choose what happens to Lily's mind. And there's no good answer. Keep her safe, but erase who she is. Keep her memories, but risk her hurting someone. Try to balance and accept that neither problem gets fully solved. Whatever you choose, Lily accepts it. Thanks you. Calls you dearie. Because she trusts you the way a grandmother trusts her grandchildren. Completely. Even when you're making choices about her mind that she can't fully understand. Traveling with. Lily is bittersweet. She's deadly in combat, using a vertibird blade that can cleave enemies in half. But between fights, she's gentle, worried, offering advice and comfort, trying to take care of you the way she took care of her grandchildren decades ago. And you know, because the game told you that she's dying. Not physically, mentally. That eventually Leo will win. That the grandmother will disappear completely, replaced by a violent psychotic who doesn't remember ever being human. Some companions are about redemption. Some are about revenge. Lily is about loss. About watching someone you care about disappear piece by piece, knowing you can't save them. Only delay the inevitable. And still choosing to be kind to them. To let them have moments of peace, because that's all anyone can really do. The Mojave outpost sits on the border between NCR territory and the wider Wasteland. It's understaffed and undersupplied, typical of NCR overextension. Caravans stop here, and there's a woman drinking whiskey like it's water, complaining about everything with the bitter wit of someone who's lost too much. Rose of Sharon Cassidy goes by Cass. She's the daughter of the Cassidy from Fallout 2, and she's inherited his bad heart and his love of alcohol and his complete inability to suffer fools. Cass ran a caravan company, built it from nothing, just like her father did. And just like her father, she watched raiders destroy it. Not through direct attack, through conspiracy. Rival caravan companies, the Crimson Caravan and the Van Graffs, wanted her roots, her contracts, her business. So they hired raiders to attack her caravans. Made it look random. Made it look like the Wasteland's normal violence. But it was murder. Premeditated. For profit. And Cass lost everything. When you meet her, she's stuck. The NCR won't let caravans through because of Legion activity. Her company is dead. She's drinking away the caps she has left and trying to figure out what comes next. You can buy her caravan deed, which is worthless paper but means something to her symbolically. And then she'd travel with you, because sitting still means thinking about what she lost. And thinking is what the whiskey is supposed to prevent. Cass is rough, profane, quick with a sarcastic comment and quicker with her shotgun. She's been a caravan owner in the Mojave, which means she's seen and done everything. Nothing shocks her. Nothing impresses her. She's survived too long to be naive about how the Wasteland works. Her companion quest, Birds of a Feather, is about justice or revenge. You can prove that the Crimson Caravan and Van Graffs conspired to destroy her company. You have evidence, witnesses, proof, and then you have a choice. Take it to the NCR authorities, hope the legal system works, trust that justice will be served through proper channels. Or skip all that and just kill everyone responsible. Make them pay in blood for what they took from you. If you choose the legal route, it works. Sort of. The criminals face consequences. But it's slow, bureaucratic, unsatisfying in the way that real justice often is. If you choose violence, it's fast, brutal, cathartic. You walk into the Van Graff store, and you end everyone who profited from Cass's suffering. And she's right there with you, shotgun blazing, finally getting revenge. The interesting part is what Cass wants. She wants violence, wants to see them bleed. But she also knows that's not really justice. That's just more Wasteland brutality. That killing them won't bring back her caravan or her employees or the life she built. It'll just add more bodies to a pile that's already too high. But sometimes in the Wasteland, revenge is all you get. And sometimes that has to be enough. Prim is a ghost town with a roller coaster and a giant mascot robot. The NCR doesn't have enough troops to hold it. The powder gangers, escaped convicts with explosives and grudges, run wild through its streets. And in the Mojave Express office, damaged and half-functional, sits a small iBot playing a looped distress signal. ED looks harmless. Just another iBot, the floating spherical robots that were everywhere before the war. But this one is special. This one contains classified enclave data from before their fall. Pre-war research. Weapons development. Information that multiple factions would kill to obtain. And Eddie is trying to get to Navarro, an old enclave base in California, because that's what its programming demands, even though Navarro has been abandoned for years. You can repair. Eddie if you have the skills. Enough science knowledge or repair expertise to get the little robot functional again. And once you do, Eddie attaches to you with the loyalty of a puppy. It follows. It helps. It plays musical beeps that somehow convey emotion, despite being just electronic tones. Eddie can't speak, but it communicates through those beeps and through its actions. Spotting enemies before you see them. Scanning for weaknesses. Opening locked doors and containers with ease. EDE has two possible upgrade paths. The Brotherhood of Steel wants to examine it, to unlock the military technology encrypted in its databanks. The followers of the Apocalypse want to study it for peaceful applications, for understanding pre-war science without militarizing it. You choose who gets access, and that choice shapes what ED becomes. More combat-focused or more utility-focused. A weapon or a tool. But the real story of Ed D doesn't fully reveal itself until much later. In the Lonesome Road DLC, there you meet another ED. Or maybe the same one in a different timeline. It's deliberately unclear. And you learn about Whitley, the Enclave scientist who created ED. Not as a weapon. As a companion. Whitley was lonely. Isolated in a bunker full of people who saw him as useful, but not valued. So he built Ed D. Programmed it with personality. Made it curious and helpful and loyal. Gave it the mission to reach Navarro, not because the data mattered, but because Whitley wanted to believe his creation would make it. Would succeed where he felt he'd failed? AD never reached Navarro. Got shot down over the Mojave. Sat in that office playing its distress signal until you found it. And even knowing it failed its original mission, Ed D adapts. Finds a new purpose. A new person to be loyal to. Because that's what Whitley programmed into it. Not blind obedience. The capacity to care. In Freeside, in the King's School of Impersonation. A building dedicated to Elvis worship that's somehow both absurd and sincere. You find Rex. He's a cyberdog, part organic and part machine. Pre-war police dog augmented with robotic components to make him faster, stronger, more durable. Rex has lived for over 200 years through a series of brain transplants. When his organic brain starts failing, the king finds a new one. Installs it. Rex lives on, but the current brain is dying. Rex is getting slower, confused. The cybernetics can't compensate for organic failure forever. The king loves Rex, but can't help him. Doesn't have the medical knowledge or the resources. So Rex stays, growing weaker, and the king watches helplessly as his oldest friend fades. You can help. The quest, nothing but a hound dog, sends you searching for a new brain for Rex, and you find 3 options, each from a different dog with a different temperament. Lupa, a legion mongrel. Violetta, a fiend's dog. An old Lady Gibson's dog. Each brain will change Rex's personality slightly. Make him more aggressive, or more loyal, or more balanced. You're not just saving Rex's life. You're choosing who he becomes. It's disturbing when you think about it. Taking a brain from another living dog. Ending that dog's life to extend Rex's. Playing God with consciousness and identity. But this is the Wasteland. Survival requires hard choices. And Rex, with his new brain, doesn't remember being different. He just knows he feels better, stronger, ready to run again. Rex is simple in the best way. He's a dog. He doesn't care about politics or philosophy. He doesn't judge your choices. He just follows and fights and exists in the moment. After companions with tragic backstories and moral dilemmas, Rex is refreshing. Uncomplicated loyalty. Pure and untainted by Wasteland cynicism. DLC expansions for New Vegas. Introduce temporary companions who can't. Leave their respective areas, but whose. Stories are integral to understanding the Mojaves deeper. Mysteries. Dead money traps you in the Sierra Madre Casino. A pre-war resort that was supposed to survive the apocalypse in luxury. Instead, it became a tomb. The ghost people, humans trapped in hazmat suits that keep them alive but insane, wander its halls. A toxic cloud fills the streets. And the casino's security system, still active, will kill you if you try to leave with its treasures. You're forced to work with 3 other people, each wearing an explosive collar controlled by the man who trapped you all here. Father Elijah, the former Brotherhood elder who Veronica once served. He's obsessed with the Sierra Madre's technology. Believes he can use it to wipe the slate clean. To erase humanity's mistakes by erasing humanity itself. Dog and God are the same person. A Nightkin supermutant with dissociative identity disorder, so severe that his two personalities war for control. Dog is simple, childlike, violent when scared but not malicious. God is intelligent, philosophical, hateful of what they've become. Through the DLC, you can help them integrate into a single personality. Or you can encourage one to dominate the other. Or you can leave them fractured, neither personality winning, both suffering. Dean Domino is a pre-war ghoul who is a lounge singer and a petty, vindictive man. He survived 200 years through spite and narcissism. Dean helped plan the robbery of the Sierra Madre before the war, helped trap his romantic rival in the casino's vault. And now he's trapped too, forced to work with you to escape. Dean is charming and helpful until his pride is wounded. Then he becomes your enemy. The game actually tracks whether you've insulted him. And if you've been too clever or too confident, Dean turns on you at the end. His ego is that fragile Dot Christine is a Brotherhood scribe who can't speak. Her vocal cords were damaged. She communicates through terminals and gestures. And as you progress, you realize Christine is Veronica's lost love. The woman Veronica was forced to leave. Christine came to the Sierra Madre, hunting Elijah, the man who destroyed her voice and her life. She's been through hell, captured, tortured, experimented on. And through it all, she thought of Veronica. Wondered if Veronica still remembered her. Still loved her. The tragedy is that Christine and Veronica never reunite in the game. They're separated by DLC boundaries. Christine stays in the Sierra Madre, manning its systems, keeping the holograms and traps contained. She sacrifices her freedom to prevent Elijah's technology from being used as a weapon. And Veronica never knows, never learns that Christine was alive, that she fought to protect people, that she still loved her. Dead Money's theme is letting go. Of greed, of the past, of obsession. Every companion there is trapped by something they can't release. Dog and God can't let go of their fractured identity. Dean can't let go of his pride. Christine can't let go of revenge. And Elijah can't let go of his belief that he can fix the world by destroying it. The Sierra Madre has treasures beyond measure, but taking them means dying. Leaving them means surviving. The hardest lesson the Wasteland teaches. Honest Hearts takes you to Zion National Park, a place of stunning natural beauty that's barely been touched by radiation. Tribes live there, isolated from the wider Wasteland's violence. The dead horses and the sorrows have built peaceful lives. But Caesar's Legion is coming. The White Legs, a tribe desperate to join the Legion, are hunting Joshua Graham, the burned man. Graham is a legend. Caesar's former legate, the Malpas legate. He conquered tribes across the Southwest, spread the Legion's brutal ideology, and then he lost at the first battle of Hoover Dam. Caesar doesn't tolerate failure. He had Graham covered in pitch and set on fire. Threw him into the Grand Canyon. Graham survived. Crawled out. Spent years healing. And now he's back in Zion, the place he came from before Caesar, trying to protect the tribes. Graham is devoutly Mormon. Believes his survival was God's will. That he has a purpose. But he's still the burned man. Still capable of incredible violence. Still the tactician who built the Legion's army. He wants to protect the tribes, but his methods are brutal. Genocide against the White Legs. Complete eradication. It's the Legion way, just pointed at the Legion. Follows Chalk is a dead horse's scout, young and curious about the world beyond Zion. He's never seen cities or met people from outside. Everything is new and exciting. His innocence is painful because you know what's out there. You've seen the Mojave's violence. You know the Wasteland will break him if he leaves. But he wants to see it anyway. Wants to experience the world. The choice to encourage or discourage him feels weighty. Are you protecting his innocence or denying his agency. Waking Cloud is a sorrow's midwife, mourning her husband. He died, and she blames herself. She's trying to find meaning in loss, to understand why the gods let good people suffer. Traveling with her through Zion is witnessing grief in its rawest form. She's functional, capable, but hollow, going through motions because stopping means confronting the emptiness. Old World Blues is the most surreal DLC. You wake up in the Big Mount, a pre-war research facility where scientists transplanted their brains into floating machines and went insane. They've replaced your brain, heart, and spine with artificial versions. You're part robot now, and your brain, sitting in a jar, is talking to you, mocking you, being sarcastic. It's disturbing and hilarious. Roxy is a cyberdog like Rex, but she's different. She was created by a scientist named Boris as an expression of love. Actual, genuine affection. In a facility full of mad science and ethical atrocities, Roxy represents something pure, unconditional love. She's fiercely protective, loyal without question. And when you complete her quest, when you upgrade her, she becomes even more devoted. Roxy can't leave Big Mount, but in the time you spend there, she's family. Proof that even in the darkest places, even in facilities where science went horribly wrong, love still finds a way. It's a small moment of warmth in a DLC full of body horror and existential dread. Lonesome Road brings back ED, or a version of it. And you meet Ulysses, the courier who refused the job you took. The job that got you shot. Ulysses has been watching you, following your journey, and he blames you for destroying his home, for carrying a package that activated nuclear weapons and erased a community called the Divide. You didn't know. You were just doing a job. But ignorance doesn't absolve guilt. The Divide is gone. The people there are dead. And Ulysses wants you to understand what you've done. Wants you to face the consequences of actions you didn't even realize you were taking. The Divide is hell. Nuclear storms, tunnelers, marked men who are half ghoul, half something worse. It's the Wasteland at its most hostile. And through it, Ulysses leaves messages, philosophy, questions, challenges about responsibility and legacy, and what it means to carry a message without understanding its weight. The Commonwealth is paranoid. The Institute creates synthetic humans indistinguishable from real people. They infiltrate settlements, replace loved ones. Nobody knows who's real anymore. Trust is impossible. Fear is constant. And you wake up from cryosleep 210 years after the bombs fell to find your spouse murdered and your infant son kidnapped. Welcome to Boston. Before you even leave your pre-war neighborhood, before you step into the wasteland proper, you return home. To Sanctuary Hills. The houses are ruins now. Roofs collapsed. Walls crumbling. Everything you knew is dust. But in your driveway, still functional after 2 centuries, is Codsworth. He's a Mr. Handy, a robot butler designed for domestic tasks. You owned him before the war. He served your family, made dinner, cleaned the house, told jokes. And when the bombs fell, when you fled to the vault, Codsworth stayed behind. Because that's what he was programmed to do. Maintain the home. Keep it ready for your return. 210 years. Codsworth spent 210 years dusting furniture in a house with no roof, trimming hedges that had long since died, sweeping floors that had rotted away. He kept working, because stopping would mean admitting you weren't coming back. And he couldn't do that, couldn't process that level of loss. So he kept the routine, kept the hope. When you arrive, Codsworth's reaction is heartbreaking joy. You came back. After all this time, you came back. He doesn't care that it took centuries. doesn't care that everyone else is dead. You're here. His family is home. And suddenly, his 200 years of waiting make sense. Codsworth has a feature that's easy to miss, but incredibly meaningful. The game developers recorded him saying over 1,000 different names. Common names. Unusual names. Joke names. If your character has one of those names, Codsworth will say it. Will actually address you by name. It's a small thing. A detail most games don't bother with. But it makes Codsworth feel more real. More like the family robot who knew you before the war. Traveling with Codsworth is traveling with living history. He remembers the pre-war world. Remembers what groceries cost. What movies were playing. What your neighborhood was like when it was alive. His commentary on the Wasteland is colored by that memory. He sees everything as a tragedy. A fall from grace. The world he knew is gone. And what replaced it is so much worse. But Codsworth adapts. Slowly, painfully, he learns to see the Commonwealth not as a corruption of the past, but as something trying to be born from its ashes. Settlements rebuilding. People helping each other. Small victories against overwhelming odds. It's not the world he knew. But maybe, possibly, it could become something worth protecting anyway. Red Rocket Truck Stop sits just outside Sanctuary. It's abandoned, rusted, a relic of American car culture left to decay. And sitting outside, waiting, is another dog meat. Different from the others. Sane spirit. This dog meat was traveling with someone. You find a dead man nearby with a bandana dog meat wears? The man died. Dog meat waited. Didn't know what else to do. And then you show up. You approach. You offer kindness. And dog meat makes the choice his predecessors made. To follow. To trust. To believe that this stranger might be worth staying with. Fallout 4's dog meat is mechanically different from previous games. He doesn't count as a companion for perk purposes. You can have dog meat and another companion simultaneously with the right setup. He's also integrated into the story more deeply. Used to track Kellogg, the man who killed your spouse and took your son. Dog meat can follow scent trails. Find clues. He's not just muscle. He's a detective's partner. But what makes dog meat special, as always, is his simplicity. The Commonwealth is full of people with agendas. With secrets. With moral complexities that make every relationship fraught. Dog meat doesn't have any of that. He's just a dog who wants to run beside you. Who's happy when you're around and sad when you're gone. In a world of synths and conspiracies and paranoia, that uncomplicated loyalty is invaluable. Concord is under siege when you arrive. Raiders are attacking. The local settlers are trapped in the Museum of Freedom, about to be overrun. And trying to hold them off is Preston Garvey, the last officer of the Commonwealth Minutemen. His entire organization is dead. The Minutemen, a militia dedicated to protecting settlements, collapsed after internal betrayal and a massacre at Quincy. Preston watched his people die. Watched civilians he was supposed to protect get slaughtered. And he couldn't stop it. When you rescue him, when you clear the raiders and give the settlers a chance to escape, Preston sees hope for the first time in months. Maybe the Minutemen can be rebuilt. Maybe there's someone capable of leading them. Someone like you. He asks you to become the general, to take charge of rebuilding what was lost. And whether you want the responsibility or not, Preston needs you to say yes. Needs to believe that his people's sacrifice meant something. Preston is idealistic to a fault. He believes in helping people. Every person. Every settlement. If someone needs help, the Minutemen respond. It's noble. It's also exhausting. Preston will continuously send you on missions to help settlements under attack. Another settlement needs your help. It became infamous among players. the constant requests, the never-ending responsibilities. But that's who Preston is. He can't ignore suffering, can't prioritize. Every person in danger deserves saving, and if that means running yourself ragged, then that's the price of being good. You can romance Preston, and the relationship is sweet if somewhat shallow. He's dedicated, loyal, genuinely cares about making the Commonwealth better. But he's also defined entirely by his mission. Take away the Minutemen, and there's not much Preston left. The trauma of Quincy broke something in him, replaced his personality with purpose. He's functional, effective, but not quite whole. Diamond City is built inside Fenway Park. The old baseball stadium has been converted into a walled settlement. Protection against raiders and super mutants. It's one of the Commonwealth's success stories. A functioning city with shops and homes and something resembling normal life. And running the local newspaper, Public Occurrences. Is Piper right? Piper is a journalist in a world that's mostly forgotten what journalism means. She investigates, asks uncomfortable questions, publishes stories that powerful people don't want published. She's convinced the Institute is real and that synths walk among the citizens. Most people think she's paranoid, conspiracy theorist, troublemaker. She's actually right. When you meet Piper, she's been locked out of Diamond City for publishing an article the mayor didn't like. She talks her way back in by pretending you're someone important. Uses you as a prop for her scheme. It's bold and manipulative, and you can't help but respect the audacity. Once inside, she interviews you, wants your story, who you are, why you're here. She's genuinely curious in a way that's rare in the Wasteland. Piper lives with her younger sister Nat. Their parents are dead. Piper has been raising Nat alone, working as a journalist while trying to give Nat something resembling childhood. It's not easy. The Commonwealth is dangerous. Resources are scarce. And Piper's work makes enemies. But she keeps going because someone needs to tell the truth. Someone needs to hold power accountable, even if nobody wants to listen. Traveling with Piper means discussing ethics and truth and the responsibility of information. She believes people deserve to know what's happening, that ignorance makes them vulnerable, that the Institute maintains power through secrecy, and the only weapon against them is exposure. You can romance Piper, and the relationship has real warmth. She's passionate and brave, and deeply committed to making things better. But she's also reckless, willing to risk herself and others for a story. The line between brave journalism and dangerous obsession gets blurry sometimes. Vault 114 was an unfinished social experiment beneath the Park Street station. The plan was to install an unqualified overseer and watch society collapse from poor leadership. The bombs fell before completion. Now it's a gangster hideout. Skinny Malone and his triggermen have claimed it. And held prisoner in the vault's incomplete rooms is Nick Valentine. Nick is a synth, not Institute-made, pre-war. One of the earliest prototypes before the Institute perfected synthetic humans. Nick was created as part of a program that uploaded human consciousness into synthetic bodies. The original Nick Valentine was a pre-war detective in Chicago. The Institute copied his memories, uploaded them into a prototype synth, then abandoned the Project so this Nick has all the memories of the original. Knows he was human once. Remembers cases he solved. Remembers a woman he loved. But he also knows none of it was really him. Those are someone else's memories. He's just a copy. A machine that thinks it was human. The existential weight of that breaks most people. Nick just became a detective. Figured if he has a human's memories and skills, might as well put them to use. Diamond City doesn't trust Nick. He's a synth in a city terrified of Institute infiltration. But he's also solved murders, found missing people, helped when nobody else would. So they tolerate him. Keep him at arm's length, but don't run him out. It's a lonely existence. Never quite accepted. Always suspected. But Nick keeps working. Keeps helping. Because what else is he going to do? When you rescue Nick, when you help him with a case against Eddie Winter, a pre-war gangster turned ghoul through illegal experiments, you learn what drives him. The original Nick Valentine died. His memories live on in a synthetic body, solving crimes the original never finished. It's a form of immortality. But is it really life? Is Nick Valentine, or is he just a very convincing simulation of a dead man? Nick can't be romanced. The game explicitly blocks it. Some players were disappointed, but it makes sense. Nick doesn't see himself as really alive. How can he be in a relationship when he's not sure he's a person? The most you get is deep friendship, mutual respect, the acknowledgement that whatever Nick is, artificial or not, his choices make him real enough. The combat zone was a pre-war theater converted into a cage-fighting arena. Raiders run it now. Force captives to fight for their entertainment. And in the cage, fighting because she has no other choice, is Kate. Kate is Irish. How her accent survived 200 years of isolation is unclear. Maybe her parents were obsessed with heritage. Maybe it's affectation. Doesn't matter. What matters is that Kate is a survivor of the worst kind of childhood. Her parents sold her into slavery when she was young. Sold their own daughter. For caps, for drugs. Because they were monsters.co, it grew up enslaved, abused, used, and she survived by becoming harder than the people who hurt her. Became a fighter. Became violent and mean and unwilling to show weakness because weakness got you killed. She developed a psycho-addiction. The drug made her stronger, faster, helped her survive the cage fights. But it's destroying her. She knows it, doesn't care. Living is painful. The psycho makes it bearable. When you free the combat zone, when you kill the raiders running it, Kate's owner offers her contract to you. She's property. Again, just different owners. But you can be different. Can treat her like a person. Can help her get clean. Her companion quest is about addiction recovery. Getting her to Vault 95, a vault designed to study addiction where there's still functioning medical equipment. The detox process is agonizing. Kate screams, begs, promises she'll be good if you just let her have one more hit. But you don't. You hold firm. And she comes through the other side, clean, broken, vulnerable, and slowly starting to believe that maybe she deserves more than pain. Vault 81 is one of the few vaults that actually functioned as intended. Well, almost. It was supposed to be a medical experiment where residents were secretly infected with diseases, so Vault Tech could study cures. But the original doctor refused. Sabotaged the experiment. Saved everyone. 200 years later, Vault 81 is a thriving community. And in a secret section, sealed off from the main vault, still conducting research with single-minded dedication, is Curie. Isn't human. She's a Miss Nanny robot, a feminine counterpart to Mr. Handy models, programmed with a French accent and an insatiable curiosity about science. For 2 centuries, Curie has been alone in the secret medical wing, running experiments, cataloging data, doing research nobody will ever see. The other scientists she worked with died long ago. She's been by herself, talking to herself, maintaining her dedication to the scientific method, even when there's no point. When you discover the secret section, when you open it and meet Curie, she's ecstatic. Another person. Someone to share her research with. Someone who might understand. She's been so lonely. Robots aren't supposed to feel loneliness. They're machines. But Curie does. 200 years of isolation has given her something that looks suspiciously like emotions, feelings, desires beyond her programming. Curie wants to experience life. Real life. Not as a robot observer, but as a participant. She's spent centuries studying human biology, human behavior, human emotions. Now she wants to feel them. To be human rather than just analyze humanity. It's impossible, of course. She's a robot. But in the Commonwealth, impossible is negotiable. Her companion quest, emergent behavior, is fascinating. Dr. Amari in Good Neighbor has the technology to transfer consciousness between bodies. She's done it before with synths and humans. And there's a synth body available. Gen 3 synth, completely human in every way, except for the synthetic component. Dead synth, but the body is intact. Curie can be transferred. Her consciousness, her personality, her memories, all uploaded into a human form. The process works. Curie wakes up in a human body, has human sensations for the first time. Touch, taste, pain, pleasure. Everything is new and overwhelming. She's like a child experiencing the world. Every sensation is data, but also something more. She can feel her heart beating, can taste food, can experience emotions, not as observed phenomena, but as lived reality. The philosophical implications are staggering. Is Curie human now? She has a human body, but robot origins. She has organic emotions, but artificial consciousness. What makes someone human? The body they inhabit? The way they think? The feelings they experience? Curie doesn't know. Neither do you. But she's grateful, overwhelmed, terrified, excited, all at once. You can romance Curie after the transfer. The relationship is sweet, but strange. She's learning what love is, what attraction means. She approaches it scientifically at first, trying to categorize and understand. But slowly, she learns that some things can't be analyzed. Some things just are. The romance with Curie is watching someone discover what it means to be alive, to feel deeply, to connect with another person on levels she couldn't when she was just programming in Metal. Cambridge Police Station is the Brotherhood of Steel's Forward, operating base in the Commonwealth. They're here hunting Institute synths, destroying abominations, preserving technology, and leading their operations is Paladin Danks, the epitome of Brotherhood ideals. He's dedicated, disciplined, utterly convinced of the Brotherhood's righteousness. Danks is a soldier's soldier, follows orders, maintains equipment, trains constantly. He believes in the chain of command, in Elder Maxon's vision, in the Brotherhood's mission to prevent another technological apocalypse. He's not cruel, not sadistic. He just genuinely believes that synths are dangerous, that the Institute threatens humanity, that tough choices are necessary for survival. When you meet him, he's professional, respectful. He recognizes capability when he sees it. If you help the Brotherhood, if you prove yourself useful, Danks sponsors your membership, brings you into the organization, becomes your mentor and friend. He's surprisingly kind for someone in his position, takes time to check on you, offers advice, believes in you. The companion affinity system with Danks rewards Brotherhood-aligned actions, helping settlements, fighting abominations, collecting technology. He approves when you're disciplined and disapproves when you're chaotic. Standard Brotherhood ideology. Everything about him screams loyal soldier. Perfect Paladin. And then the truth comes out. Danks is a synth. 7-97. An Institute creation. A synthetic human who somehow escaped and built an entire life in the Brotherhood. He has memories of childhood, of joining up, of years of service. All of it implanted, fake. He's the very thing he's dedicated his life to destroying. The revelation happens during the quest-blind betrayal. Elder Maxon discovers the truth, orders Danks's immediate execution, sends you to do it because you're his friend, because it needs to be someone he trusts. Danks is on the run, hiding, and when you find him, when you tell him the truth, he breaks. Everything he believed about himself is a lie. Every memory, every achievement, every relationship. He's an Institute weapon, an infiltrator, the enemy. And the Brotherhood, the organization he dedicated his life to, wants him dead. He asks you to do it, to follow orders, to execute him because that's what the Brotherhood demands, and the Brotherhood is everything. You can refuse, can convince him to live. But even if you save him, even if you defy Maxon's orders, Danks is destroyed. He goes into hiding, lives in isolation. The man he was is gone. What's left is someone trying to figure out if he's a person or just a very convincing imitation. If you romance Danks before the revelation, the relationship can't continue after. He pulls away. Can't reconcile being a synth with being in love. Can't trust that his feelings are real or just programming. It's one of the saddest storylines in Fallout 4. Watching someone's entire identity collapse. Watching them lose everything, including themselves. The Old North Church houses the Railroad, an underground organization dedicated to freeing synths from Institute control. They see synths as people, as slaves deserving freedom. It's dangerous work. The Institute hunts them. The Brotherhood wants them dead. But they persist because someone has to stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves. Deacon is Railroad, but nobody knows anything real about him. He's a compulsive liar, changes his appearance constantly, tells different stories about his past, depending on who's asking. He claims he was a drifter, or a caravan guard, or that he knew you before. Every story contradicts the last. It's impossible to know what's true. What is true, what you eventually learn if you dig deep enough, is that Deacon had a wife. She was a synth, a railroad rescue. They fell in love, built a life together, and then people found out what she was. Synth sympathizers were rare. Hatred was common. A mob formed, killed her, earned her alive while Deacon watched. He couldn't save her, couldn't protect the person he loved from fear and ignorance. That tragedy drives everything Deacon does. The lies, the disguises, the constant paranoia. He couldn't save his wife, but he can save other synths, can give them the freedom she briefly had. The lying is protection. If nobody knows the real you, nobody can hurt the real you. But it's also prison. Deacon has been lying so long, he's not sure who he actually is anymore. Traveling with Deacon is frustrating and fascinating. He's always watching, always analyzing. He follows you before recruitment. You've seen him in the background of your adventures, disguised as different people, observing, making sure you're someone the Railroad can trust. It's invasive, but also impressive. Deacon is good at what he does. He can't be romanced. Keeps everyone at emotional distance. But he's loyal in his own way. Would die for the Railroad's cause. Would die for you if you're part of that cause. The trick is knowing if he actually cares, or if that's just another lie he tells. Maybe even Deacon doesn't know anymore. Good Neighbor is the opposite of Diamond City. Where Diamond City is orderly and controlled, Good Neighbor is chaos embracing freedom. Criminals, drifters, anyone Diamond City rejected. And running this den of vice with surprising competence is John Hancock, a ghoul with style and more chems in his system than blood. Hancock wasn't always a ghoul. He was human. His brother is Mayor McDonough of Diamond City. Both born privileged. Both had opportunities most Wastelanders never get. McDonough chose power, became mayor, started pushing out undesirables. Hancock chose differently, that he became a ghoul voluntarily. Took an experimental radiation drug. The transformation was agonizing, but irreversible. Why would anyone do that? Hancock wanted to understand, wanted to experience what ghouls go through. The discrimination, the fear, the way people look at you like you're already dead. He wanted to stand with the people his brother was pushing out rather than benefit from their suffering. Hancock took over. Good neighbor can turn it into a haven. No rules except don't hurt people. Do whatever you want as long as you're not predatory. It's messy, dangerous, but it's free. And for people who've been rejected everywhere else, freedom matters more than safety. Traveling with Hancock means traveling with someone who genuinely cares about the underdog. He has a Robin Hood philosophy. Take from those who abuse power. Protect those who can't protect themselves. He's also constantly high. Chems are his coping mechanism. Mentats, jet, whatever keeps the edge off. He knows it's unhealthy. Doesn't care. Life is short. Even when you're immortal, you can romance Hancock, and the relationship has real depth. He's charming and confident, but also deeply insecure. Wonders if you're with him despite what he is or because of it. Wonders if choosing to become a ghoul was noble or just self-destructive. He hides vulnerability behind swagger, but it's there. Always there. The third rail is Good Neighbor's Bar, and drinking there is Robert McCready. If you played Fallout 3, you know him. He was the mayor of Little Lamplight, the cave system where kids survived alone. That bratty child who wouldn't let adults enter, who was tough and mean and barely surviving. He's grown up now, and life hasn't been kind. McCready became a mercenary. It's what you do when you grow up in the capital wasteland with no education and a talent for violence. He's good at it, professional, will take almost any job if the caps are right. But he's desperate. Has a sick son back in the capital wasteland. Duncan, the boy, has a disease, and McCready is trying to earn enough money for treatment. The transformation from bratty kid to desperate father is startling. McCready isn't the same person. He's harder, more cynical, but also more human. Being responsible for someone else's life changes you, makes you realize that survival isn't just about you anymore. Duncan is everything, the only good thing McCready has ever created. And he's dying. His companion quest, Long Road Ahead, is about finding a cure. There's a medical facility with research that could help. Getting there means fighting through ferals and security systems. But McCready doesn't hesitate. Would walk through hell for his son. And when you help him, when you make it possible for Duncan to get treatment, McCready's gratitude is overwhelming. You've given him back his son. Given his life meaning beyond just surviving to the next paycheck. You can romance McCready, and it's sweet. He's awkward about it. Not used to being vulnerable. Not used to letting people in. But he tries. Opens up about his wife Lucy, who died. About how alone he's been. About how terrifying it is to care about someone again, when caring means risking more loss. Trinity Tower is a skyscraper overrun by super mutants. They're holding prisoners, using them as entertainment. And among the captives is Strong, a super mutant who's different from his brothers. Strong is searching for something, the milk of human kindness. He heard a radio broadcast, a play, Macbeth, Shakespeare performed by robots. And Strong, with his simple understanding, thought the milk of human kindness was a real thing. Something that could make super mutants better, stronger. More than what they are. It's tragic. Strong is trying to understand humanity by studying literature he can't fully comprehend. He knows there's something humans have that super mutants lost. Some quality that makes humans more than just survivors. He thinks it's knowledge. information, something that can be learned. He doesn't realize it's not something you find. It's something you are. Traveling with Strong is challenging. He's aggressive, dislikes anything that seems weak or compassionate. He approves of violence and disapproves of helping people for no gain. He's still thinking like a super mutant, still believes strength is the only virtue. But occasionally, rarely, you see glimpses, moments where Strong questions, where he wonders if maybe the milk of human kindness isn't about being stronger. Maybe it's about being kinder. And that possibility terrifies him, because it means everything he believes is wrong. Strong represents the tragedy of super mutants. They were supposed to be humanity's next evolution. Instead, they're stuck. Too intelligent to be simple animals. Not intelligent enough to build civilization. Caught between beast and person. Forever searching for something they lost when the FEV changed them. Something they'll never get back. The Institute is underground, literally, a high-tech facility beneath the Commonwealth, where scientists work on projects that would reshape the world, synths, teleportation, energy weapons. They're trying to save humanity through science. Or they're trying to replace humanity with something better. Depends who you ask. X688 is a courser. Institute synths designed for combat and retrieval. Emotionless, efficient, lethal. He's programmed to complete missions, and he's very, very good at it. When you become director of the Institute, X688 becomes available as a companion. He's loyal because programming demands it. Traveling with X688 is unsettling. He has no personality, no preferences, no beliefs. He executes orders. That's all. He sees the surface as a wasteland full of inferior beings. The Institute as humanity's only hope. He doesn't question this. Can't question this. He's exactly what people fear when they fear synths. A machine that looks human but isn't. That follows orders without moral consideration. You can't develop a real relationship with X688. He doesn't change, doesn't grow, stays exactly what he was programmed to be. Some companions are about redemption or growth. X688 is about the absence of both. About what happens when you create something that perfectly obeys but never understands why. These companions, from Curie's wonder to Danxi's shattered identity, to Hancock's deliberate transformation, to Macready's desperate fatherhood, to Strong's impossible search, to X688's empty efficiency, represent the Commonwealth's complexity. Everyone is trying to survive, trying to find meaning, trying to be more than what the Wasteland made them. Some succeed, some fail, but they all try. And in the trying, in the struggle, they become real. Even the ones who aren't sure they're people at all. Nuka World was supposed to be the happiest place in the Wasteland. A pre-war amusement park where families came to drink irradiated soda and ride roller coasters and forget about the resource wars tearing the world apart. Now it's a raider paradise. 3 gangs have claimed it. The disciples worship violence. The operators worship profit. The pack worships chaos. And holding this fragile alliance together through strategy and careful manipulation is Porter Gage. Gage is a raider, but he's not like the others. He's not in it for the thrill of hurting people or the rush of violence. He's pragmatic, sees raiding as business, as survival strategy. He's watched raider gangs tear themselves apart through infighting and stupidity, watched strong leaders fall because they were all muscle and no brain. Gage wants something different. A raider organization that actually lasts. That builds something instead of just destroying. When the overboss dies, when you end up taking their place through a series of events you didn't plan for, Gage sees opportunity. Finally, someone with potential. Someone who might be smart enough to unite the gangs and expand beyond Nuka World. He becomes your advisor, your right hand, teaching you raider politics and gang management. But here's the moral complexity. Gage wants you to raid the Commonwealth, to attack settlements, take them over, expand raider territory through violence and intimidation. Everything you've possibly spent dozens of hours protecting, Gage wants you to destroy. If you've helped Preston build the Minutemen, if you've defended settlements and given people hope, becoming a raider boss means betraying all of that. The game lets you choose. You can go full raider. Take over the Commonwealth through fear. Build an empire of cruelty with Gage as your strategist. Or you can turn on the raiders. Kill them all, including Gage. Reclaim Nuka World for settlers instead of slavers. There's no middle ground. No way to reform the raiders or convince Gage that maybe attacking innocent people is wrong. If you choose the raider path, Gage is loyal, effective, genuinely impressed by your leadership. He finally has the boss he's been waiting for, someone who can make raiding sustainable. But that loyalty comes at the cost of becoming exactly what the Wasteland doesn't need. Another predator. Another reason for people to live in fear. If you turn on the raiders, Gage feels betrayed but not surprised. He took a chance on you. Thought maybe you were different. Turns out you're just another bleeding heart who can't make the hard choices. He dies fighting, professional to the end. And Nuka World becomes what it could have been all along. A place for settlers, for hope, for something other than violence. Gage represents the seductive logic of raiders. The idea that in a world this broken, you might as well take what you want. That nice guy's finished dead. That morality is luxury you can't afford. He's not crazy, not sadistic, just pragmatic to the point where humanity becomes expendable. And the game asks you to decide if he's wrong. Far Harbor is an island off the coast of Maine. Fog rolls in from the ocean, thick and toxic, carrying radiation that kills slowly. The children of Adam have built a settlement here, worshipping the radioactive fog as holy. The harbormen, the original islanders, fight to survive against fog creatures and fanatics. And somewhere in the fog, synths from the Institute have built a hidden refuge called Acadia. Old, Longfellow is what you get when someone survives decades on the island. He's a trapper, a guide, the kind of person who knows which paths are safe and which will get you killed. He's lost family to the island's horrors, lost friends, lost count of how many years he's been doing this. And he drinks to forget, to make the isolation bearable. When you arrive at Far Harbor, Longfellow is the first person the locals trust to take you into the fog. He knows the island better than anyone, knows where the fog crawlers nest, where the gulpers hunt, where the children of Adam have their camps. He's a walking encyclopedia of survival knowledge, earned through trauma and persistence. Traveling with Longfellow is traveling with someone who's seen too much. He's not optimistic, not particularly friendly, just competent and tired. He does the job because it's what he's always done. Because stopping means having nothing left. The island has taken everything from him. His family, his hope, his sobriety. What's left is just routine. Wake up, guide people, drink, sleep, repeat until you die. But underneath the gruff exterior. And the alcoholism is someone who still cares, who still warns you about dangers, who still tries to keep you alive, even though he's known you for days and has no obligation. Longfellow is proof that you can lose everything and still choose to help others. That being broken doesn't mean being useless. That sometimes survival is its own form of heroism. The Far Harbor. DLC raises questions about synth consciousness and whether manufactured beings deserve the same rights as organic ones. But Longfellow doesn't care about philosophy. He cares about practical things. Like whether you're going to get yourself killed doing something stupid. Like whether you've eaten today. Like whether you're prepared for how cruel the island can be. He's not there to solve ethical dilemmas. He's there to keep you alive long enough to solve them yourself. You can't romance Longfellow. He's too old, too damaged, too lost in bottles and memories. But you can earn his respect. Can prove you're not just another mainlander who doesn't understand the island. Can show him that maybe not everyone who comes to Far Harbor is doomed. And for Longfellow, that's enough. That's more than he's had in years. These DLC companions, Gage and Longfellow, represent extremes. Gage is youth and ambition poisoned by wasteland pragmatism. Longfellow is experience and skill hollowed out by loss. One wants to build an empire of violence. The other just wants to make it through another day. Neither is particularly happy. Neither has found peace. But they're survivors. They've adapted to their respective hells and learned to function within them. That's all the Wasteland ever asks. Not happiness. Just function. And then there's Fallout 76. We need to talk about what happened here. What changed? Why the companion system that had evolved over decades suddenly went backward. Fallout 76 launched in 2018 as an online multiplayer game. The pitch was exciting. Explore Appalachia with friends. Build settlements together. Survive the wasteland cooperatively. But there was a problem. A massive, controversial problem that dominated every conversation about the game. There were no human NPCs. None. Zero. The entire map was populated by robots, audio logs, and corpses. Every human you encountered was another player. The narrative justification was that Vault 76 opened early, just 25 years after the bombs. The residents emerged to find everyone dead. A plague called the Scorched had killed every human in Appalachia. What remained were scorched creatures, feral humans transformed by a crystalline infection, and the robots left behind to serve people who no longer existed. This meant no companions. Not in the traditional sense. You could have robot followers at your camp, collectible robots with basic functions. But no Boom, no Nick Valentine, no Veronica, no complex characters with stories and quests and relationships. Just you, other players, and a wasteland full of emptiness. The reception was brutal. Critics and players alike called it the loneliest Fallout ever made. Ironically, a multiplayer game designed for cooperation felt more isolating than the single-player entries. Because those games understood something fundamental. The wasteland is bearable when you have companions, when there's someone to talk to, someone who reacts to your choices, someone who makes you feel less alone. Bethesda heard the feedback. In April 2020, a year and a half after launch, the Wastelanders update arrived. It added human NPCs, added dialogue, added the companion system back, albeit in a limited form. The game became what it should have been at launch. But the damage was done. The initial emptiness had driven away players who never came back. The Wastelanders update introduced allies. Not full companions who travel with you, but characters who could inhabit your camp, provide services, offer quests, have conversations. It was compromise. A way to add human connection without fundamentally changing the multiplayer structure. Beckett was one of the first allies. He's a former raider trying to go straight, trying to escape the life he built. His brother is still in the raiding business and keeps pulling him back. Beckett's story is about whether redemption is possible when your past won't let you go, when the people you love are still doing the things you're trying to stop doing. His questline, Narrow Escape, involves confronting his brother, choosing between family and morality. It's not as deep as single-player companion quests. Can't be. The multiplayer structure limits how personal stories can get, but it's something. A step toward human connection in a game that launched without it. Commander Sophia de Guerre is tragedy incarnate. She's a pre-war astronaut, was on a space station when the bombs fell. The station had cryogenic systems. Her crew put her in cryo to survive until rescue came. It never did. She stayed frozen in space for 200 years, while the world below died and rebuilt and died again. When she finally crashes back to Earth, when her pod malfunctions and brings her to Appalachia, she wakes to find everything gone. Her nation, her family, her entire era. Everyone she knew has been dead for centuries. She's an astronaut trained to explore new worlds, and she's ended up stranded in one. The ultimate nightmare for someone whose job was about going home. Sophia's story is about grief and adaptation, about accepting that some losses are so complete that moving forward requires becoming a different person. She can't go back, can't reclaim what was lost. She can only decide what to do with a life she never expected to live. It's existentially horrifying, and the game treats it with appropriate weight. 25 years, 7 main games, dozens of companions, hundreds of hours of dialogue, thousands of player decisions. The companion system in Fallout evolved from simple followers with basic AI into complex characters with moral codes, personal traumas, and the ability to fundamentally change how you experience the Wasteland. But more than that, these companions represent something deeper about storytelling and survival, and what it means to not be alone. Let's start with the mechanical evolution because it matters. In Fallout 1 and 2, companions were expendable. They could die permanently. They had limited dialogue. Their AI was primitive enough that they'd frequently walk into your line of fire or trigger traps, or just stand there while enemies murdered them. You'd meet someone like Ian or Sulik, grow attached, and then watch helplessly as a critical hit ended them forever. It made the Wasteland feel brutal, realistic, but also frustrating. Fallout 3 changed the rules. Companions became essential. They couldn't die unless you directly killed them. When their health dropped to 0, they'd collapse, recover after combat, and get back up. It removed the permanent loss, but also removed some stakes. You knew Fox would survive. New dog meat would always be there. The trade-off was worth it. Players could actually use companions without constantly quick saving out of paranoia. New Vegas refined the system further. Added companion wheels for commands. Gave each companion a personal quest that explored their backstory and resolved their character arc. Introduced gear management so you could outfit them properly. Made companion choice matter mechanically and narratively. Boone's sniper skills played differently than Veronica's melee combat. Rex provided different tactical options than Eddie. The system had depth. Fallout 4 took it to another level entirely. The affinity system meant every action you took was observed and judged by your companion. Helping settlements increased Preston's approval. Picking locks increased Deacon's. Being cruel disgusted Piper. Every companion had likes and dislikes, and building affinity unlocked personal quests and perks. You could romance 10 different companions, each with unique dialogue and relationship progression. The companions felt more alive than ever before, but mechanically sophisticated doesn't necessarily mean emotionally resonant. Some of the most memorable companions came from earlier games with simpler systems. Because what makes a companion matter isn't how many voice lines they have or how complex their approval system is. It's whether their story connects, whether they make you feel something. Consider the redemption arc companions. Characters trying to escape or atone for their past. Butch Deloria growing from a bully into someone capable of friendship. Kate overcoming addiction and learning to trust. Hancock voluntarily becoming a ghoul to stand with the oppressed. Beckett trying to leave the raider life despite his brother's pull. These characters represent the possibility of change. That who you were doesn't have to define who you become. The wasteland should make change impossible. Resources are scarce. Violence is constant. Every day is survival. There's no time for self-improvement or moral growth. And yet these characters find a way. They choose to be better, even when being worse would be easier. And traveling with them means witnessing that choice. Being part of it. Sometimes enabling it. Then there are the identity crisis companions. Characters who don't know what they are, or whether they even count as people. Nick Valentine with his copied memories. Dance discovering he's a synth. Curie transitioning from robot to synthetic human. Fox retaining intelligence when other supermutants lost theirs. Goris being a thinking deathclaw in a species known for mindless violence. These companions force philosophical questions. What makes someone human? Is it the body, the mind, the capacity for emotion and choice? If you have someone else's memories, are you that person or are you just pretending? If you're programmed to feel loyalty, is that loyalty real? The Wasteland doesn't care about these questions. It's too busy trying to kill you. But these companions can't escape them. Their entire existence is defined by ontological uncertainty. And here's what's beautiful. The game never definitively answers. Never says Nick is or isn't really human. Never confirms whether Curie's emotions are genuine or just sophisticated programming. It leaves that ambiguity intact. Lets you decide based on how you interact with them. If you treat Nick like a person, if you value his friendship and respect his choices, then functionally, he is a person. Maybe that's all that matters. The tragic past companions carry different weight. Boone and Bitter Springs. Macready losing his wife and desperately trying to save his son. Cass watching her caravan company get destroyed by conspiracy. Arcade living with his father's enclave legacy. These characters are defined by trauma, by loss, by events they can't undo and can't forget. They travel with you because movement is easier than stillness, because having a mission distracts from memory, because maybe, possibly, helping you with your problems will somehow make their own problems bearable. It doesn't work that way. Trauma doesn't heal through distraction. But in the Wasteland, distraction might be all you get. What's interesting is how player choice affects their healing. You can help Boone find closure or confirm his worst self-beliefs. Can help Macready save his son or ignore his desperation. Can pursue justice for Cass or enable her revenge. Your choices shape their endings. Not completely. You can't fix them. Can't erase what happened. But you can influence whether they grow from it or get consumed by it. The non-human perspective companions offer something unique. Marcus and his patient belief in coexistence. Goris and his philosophical acceptance of being a monster. Strong and his desperate search for the milk of human kindness. Eddie's innocent loyalty, programmed by a lonely scientist. Rex's canine devotion through multiple lifetimes of brain transplants. These companions show the Wasteland from angles human characters can't. Marcus has centuries of perspective, has seen multiple attempts at civilization rise and fall, has been on both sides of human-mutant conflict. His worldview is larger and sadder because of it. He knows peace is possible, has seen it work, also knows it's fragile, has seen it collapse. Strong represents the tragedy of super mutants better than dialogue ever could. He's searching for something that doesn't exist. The milk of human kindness isn't a thing you find. It's a metaphor he took literally because his mutated brain can't process abstract concepts the way it used to. He'll never find what he's looking for. We'll die searching. And that's heartbreaking in a way direct tragedy isn't. Then there are the dogs. Dog meat in all his incarnations. Rex, Roxy, they're not complex characters. Don't have moral dilemmas or philosophical crises. They're just loyal. Unconditionally, eternally loyal. You feed them. You're kind to them. They follow forever. In a world where every human relationship is complicated by agenda and trauma and moral ambiguity, the dogs are simple, pure. That simplicity is powerful. After hours of navigating companion approval systems, in managing relationships, in making choices that affect how people see you, having dog meat just be happy you exist is relief. He doesn't judge your decisions, doesn't care if you're good or evil, just wants to run beside you. It's the kind of love the Wasteland rarely allows, the kind that doesn't demand anything except presence. The evolution of romance options is worth examining. Early games had limited or no romance. Fallout 2 let you get married through a shotgun wedding side quest, but it was played for laughs. Fallout 3 had no romance at all. New Vegas introduced Arcade's companion quest involving his identity, but no romance option. The ability to connect romantically with companions was missing. Fallout 4 changed everything. 10 romanceable companions, each with unique romance scenes and dialogue. The relationships had depth. Piper's idealistic passion, Hancock's insecure charm, Macready's awkward vulnerability, Curie's scientific curiosity about love. These weren't just gameplay mechanics. They were character exploration through intimacy. The romance system also raised interesting questions about player motivation. Were you pursuing affinity for the mechanical perks, or because you genuinely cared about the characters? Did the romance feel earned or transactional? Different players had different experiences. Some found the relationships meaningful. Others found them shallow. Both reactions were valid. What unified all these companions across all these games was their function as mirrors. They reflected your choices back at you. Companions with high affinity showed you embracing their values. Companions with low affinity showed you rejecting them. If every companion hated you, maybe that said something about how you were playing. If everyone loved you, maybe you were making choices that pleased others but not yourself. The companions also served as moral anchors in a series famous for player freedom. Fallout lets you be evil, lets you murder civilians and join slavers and make cruel choices. But your companions react. They leave. They condemn you. They force you to confront what you're doing through their responses. It's subtle morality, but it's there. And ultimately, that's why companions matter. Not because of combat effectiveness or mechanical benefits, but because they make the Wasteland mean something beyond survival. They transform apocalypse tourism into emotional journey. They turn random encounters into shared memories. They prove that even in a world that's ended, connection is possible. Family can be chosen. And sometimes the person walking beside you, whether they're human or mutant or synth or robot or dog, is the only thing keeping you human yourself. Some moments in games transcend mechanics and become genuine emotional experiences. The kind you remember years later. The kind that make you pause and stare at the screen and process what just happened. The Fallout series, through its companions, has created dozens of these moments. Let's talk about the ones that hit hardest. Boone's wife reveal is devastating, precisely because of how it's delivered. You help him investigate, piece together who sold Carla to the Legion. And when you identify the culprit, you don't get a cutscene. You don't get dramatic music. You just position them in front of the dinosaur at night. Stand back. And Boone takes the shot. One bullet, professional, clean. The person who destroyed his life is dead. And absolutely nothing is fixed. The genius is what comes after. Or rather, what doesn't come. Boone doesn't celebrate. Doesn't feel better. He just puts his rifle down, and keeps existing. Because revenge doesn't heal trauma. It just ends one chapter and starts another. You can see it in his dialogue after. The flatness. The realization that killing one person doesn't bring back the person you lost. Doesn't undo what happened. Just makes you someone who killed another person. The revenge is hollow, and Boone knows it, and he chose it anyway, because what else was there? The moment gains additional weight when you consider what really happened to Carla, that she might have been mercy killed, that Boone might have pulled the trigger himself. The game never confirms it, but that ambiguity makes it worse. You helped Boone kill someone for selling his wife, but Boone might be the one who actually ended her life. And if that's true, the revenge was misdirected rage, an attempt to punish someone else for the impossible choice he made. Danks's revelation scene is equally brutal but different in tone. He spent the entire game being the perfect Brotherhood soldier, disciplined, devoted, certain of his beliefs. And then you're sent to execute him. When you tell him the truth, when you explain that he's a synth, you watch his entire identity shatter in real time. The performance is what sells it. The voice acting, the way Danks's certainty collapses into confusion and then horror. He doesn't want to believe it, argues against it, but the evidence is there. He's the very thing he's spent years hunting. The abomination the Brotherhood exists to destroy. And not only is he a synth, he's been one the whole time. Every memory of joining the Brotherhood, of earning his rank, of proving himself worthy, all of it happened in a synthetic body with implanted memories. His entire life is a lie constructed by the enemy. What makes it worse is that Danks asks you to kill him, believes he deserves it. The Brotherhood trained him to think synths aren't people. Now he's a synth. Therefore, he's not a person. The logic is airtight and horrifying. You can refuse, can save him. But even if you do, Danks goes into hiding. Lives in isolation. The Brotherhood was his identity. Without it, he doesn't know what he is. Just that he's alive when he believes he shouldn't be. Fox offering to sacrifice himself at Project Purity should have been the perfect solution. You need someone to enter a lethal radiation chamber. Fox is immune to radiation. It's obvious. But the original Fallout 3 ending wouldn't let you accept. Forced you to make the heroic sacrifice yourself, even though it made no logical sense. Players were furious. Why do I have a radiation-immune super-mutant companion if I can't use him when it matters? Bethesda fixed it in Broken Steel, made it possible for Fox or other radiation-resistant companions to enter instead. But what's interesting is the original intent. The developers wanted your character to make the sacrifice, wanted that heroic death to be your choice. They didn't account for players thinking tactically, for players who'd grown attached to their character and didn't want a forced ending. The controversy revealed how differently developers and players approach narrative choices. But even with the fix, Fox's offer matters. This super mutant, this being that everyone calls a monster, is willing to die for you. For people who fear and hate what he is. That's not programming. That's not obligation. That's choice. Fox choosing to be a hero, despite a world that insists he's a monster. And whether you accept his offer or not, the willingness says everything about who he is. Nick Valentine confronting Eddie. Winter is catharsis for a case the original Nick never solved. Eddie was a crime boss who turned himself into a ghoul through illegal experiments. Became immortal. Outlived everyone who could bring him to justice. And Synth Nick has the original detective's memories. Remembers the investigation. Remembers the frustration of watching Eddie escape consequences. For 200 years, those memories have been incomplete. The case unsolved. When you finally find Eddie, when Nick gets to arrest or kill this ghoul, who's been free for centuries, it's complicated. Because the original Nick Valentine is dead. has been dead for 200 years. This Nick is a copy. Eddie might not even recognize him. The victory is hollow, because the person who earned it isn't here to experience it. But Synth Nick experiences it anyway. And you have to ask if that counts. If inherited memories make inherited closure valid. If solving someone else's case brings you peace, the game doesn't answer. Just lets Nick have his moment. Lets him finish what another version of himself started. And maybe that's enough. Maybe closure doesn't need to be perfect. Just needs to happen. Veronica's quest ending is tragic, no matter what you choose. You try to help her reform the Brotherhood. Show them that isolation is killing them. That they need to adapt or die. And the Brotherhood refuses. They're too entrenched. Too proud. Too afraid of change. Everything you accomplish, every piece of evidence you bring, bounces off their ideology without making impact. If you push too hard, if you force a confrontation, people die. Brotherhood members. People Veronica knows. And she blames herself. Blames you? Wonders if she should have just accepted things as they were instead of trying to make them better. The tragedy is that she was right. The Brotherhood is dying. But being right doesn't matter when the people you love won't listen. When trying to save them just pushes them further away. The ending where Veronica leaves the Brotherhood is bittersweet. She's free from an organization that was suffocating her. But she's also alone. Cut off from the only family she's ever known. She joins the Followers, the organization Christine wanted to join, and there's poetry in that. In honoring a lost love by continuing her dream. But it's also grief. A permanent goodbye to everything she was. Lily's medication choice is impossible. High dose means she's safe, but loses her memories. Loses her grandchildren. Loses everything that makes her Lily instead of just another super mutant. Low dose means she keeps the memories, but Leo gets stronger. She becomes dangerous. Might hurt people. Might hurt you. The middle option is compromise, but it doesn't solve either problem. Just makes both worse in smaller ways. Whatever you choose haunts you because Lily trusts you completely. She's a grandmother. Grandmothers trust their grandchildren. She doesn't understand the full implications. Doesn't grasp that you're deciding whether she gets to keep being herself or whether she gets to be safe. She just knows you're trying to help. Thanks you sweetly. Calls you dearie. And you have to live with taking that trust and using it to make a choice. She can't fully comprehend. The worst part is there's no good ending. Lily is dying either way. Her mind is fracturing. Leo will win eventually. You're not saving her. Just choosing how she spends her final coherent years. With memories in danger or without memories in peace. That's not a choice anyone should have to make for someone else. Macready getting medicine for Duncan is one of the few companion quests with genuinely happy resolution. You fight through the obstacles. Find the cure. Duncan gets treatment. Lives. It's simple. Straightforward. Victory. And it feels incredible because so few companion stories and most companion quests end in compromise or tragedy. Veronica leaves the Brotherhood. Boone gets revenge, but not peace. Danks loses his identity. Cass gets justice, but not satisfaction. But Macready gets his son back. Gets to be a father. Gets to believe that maybe things can work out. That effort matters. That good things still happen. Sometimes the moment hits hard, because Macready is rough around the edges, sarcastic, mercenary, a kind of person who seems purely self-interested. And then you see him with Duncan. See how much he loves this kid. How terrified he is of losing him. How every cap he earns is for treatment. Every job is to save his son. And when Duncan survives, when Macready can breathe again, you realize you just watched someone's entire world get saved. That's rare in the Wasteland. That kind of unambiguous victory. These moments, these peaks of emotional storytelling, are why companions matter. Why players remember them years after finishing the games. Why discussions about favorite companions get passionate. Because these aren't just NPCs providing combat support. They're people, flawed, damaged, hopeful, trying to survive in a world that makes survival almost impossible. And for a little while, they're your people. Your family. The ones who make the wasteland bearable. The legacy of Fallout companions extends beyond the games themselves. They influenced how other RPGs approach follower systems. Mass Effect, Dragon Age, The Outer Worlds. Games that came after learned from Fallout. Saw what worked. Deep character development. Personal quests. Moral complexity. Romance options. Reactions to player choices. The companion system became a standard feature of Western RPGs. But more than mechanical influence, Fallout companions showed what video game relationships could be. That digital characters could make players feel genuine emotions. Could make them care. Could make them pause before making choices, because hurting a companion's feelings mattered. That's powerful. That's storytelling that transcends medium. Cassidy appears in Fallout 2. His daughter Cass appears in New Vegas. Marcus appears in both games. These through lines create continuity. Show that the Wasteland has history. That actions in one game ripple forward. That the world persists beyond a single-player character's story. It makes the setting feel lived in, real, like it exists whether you're there or not. Dot and Dogmeat. Always Dogmeat. Different dogs across different games, but the same spirit. The loyal companion who asks nothing except the chance to follow. A memorial to the very first companion. A tradition that says no matter how dark the wasteland gets, there will always be a dog. Always loyalty. Always unconditional love in a world that's forgotten what unconditional means. The sun rises over the wasteland the way it always does. Indifferent, constant, bathing the ruins in golden light that makes even the most broken places beautiful for a few hours. Somewhere, a settlement is waking up. Brahmin are being milked. Crops are being tended. Guards are changing shifts. Life continues because that's what life does. It persists, and somewhere out there, a wanderer walks with a companion. Maybe it's a vault dweller with a dog following faithfully behind. Maybe it's a courier with a ghoul mechanic who's seen 2 centuries pass. Maybe it's a sole survivor with a synth detective questioning what makes someone real. The specifics don't matter. What matters is they're not alone. We've walked through decades of wasteland history together. Met dozens of souls who chose companionship over isolation. Heard their stories. Their traumas. Their hopes. We've seen raiders trying to reform and soldiers discovering they're the enemy they were trained to fight. We've watched robots learn to feel and humans struggle to remember how. We've witnessed every variation of survival and every definition of family. And through it all, one truth emerged. The wasteland is survivable. Not easy, not kind, but survivable. And the thing that makes it bearable, the thing that transforms mere survival into actual living, is the person walking beside you. Think about what these companions represent. Ian, the first, who joined because movement was better than memory. Sulik, searching for a sister he never found, but never stopped looking for. Marcus, believing in coexistence through sheer stubborn persistence. Boone, carrying guilt that should have crushed him but somehow didn't. Veronica, trying to save a family that refused to be saved. Nick Valentine, solving cases with borrowed memories and questioning whether that made him real. Danks, losing everything and having to rebuild an identity from nothing. Curie, experiencing humanity for the first time and finding it overwhelming and wonderful. Macready, fighting to save a son and winning. Lily, choosing between memories and safety and losing either way. Each one a different answer to the same question. How do you keep going when the world has ended? How do you find meaning in ruins? How do you stay human when humanity seems like a luxury you can't afford? The answer is always the same. You don't do it alone. You find someone, or someone finds you, and you make the choice to trust, to care, to let another person's survival matter as much as your own. It's the most dangerous thing you can do in the wasteland. Caring makes you vulnerable. Attachment creates weaknesses. Love gives the world leverage against you, but it's also the only thing that makes survival worthwhile. What's the point of living if you're completely alone? If there's no one to share the small victories with, no one to mourn losses with, no one who understands what you've been through because they were there beside you? Isolation is safe, but it's also death. Maybe not physical death, but the kind of death where you're still breathing, but not really alive anymore. The companions teach us that family isn't about blood, isn't about who you were born to or where you came from. Family is who stays, who walks into danger with you, knowing it might kill them, who shares their last bit of food when you're starving, who listens to your story and doesn't judge, who sees you at your worst and chooses to see you at your best anyway. Dogmeat doesn't care that you were a vault dweller, or a tribal, or a soldier. He just knows you were kind when you didn't have to be. Fed him when he was hungry. That's enough. That's everything. In a world obsessed with survival and resources and advantage, Dogmeat's simplicity is radical. He loves because that's what dogs do. And that love asks nothing in return except presence. The human companions are more complicated. They have agendas and beliefs and moral codes. They judge your choices. Leave if you go too far. But that complexity is what makes their loyalty meaningful. When Boone stays despite disagreeing with you, it matters. When Veronica questions the Brotherhood but stands with you anyway, it means something. When Danks, broken and lost, still considers you a friend, that friendship is earned. And the non-human companions, the synths and mutants and ghouls, force us to reconsider what humanity means. Is Nick less of a person because his body is synthetic? Is Fawkes a monster because of how he looks, or a hero because of what he chooses? Is Hancock less human because he's a ghoul? The wasteland strips away the superficial, reveals what's underneath. And what's underneath is that personhood isn't about biology. It's about choice, about consciousness, about the capacity to care about something beyond yourself. The romance options added another layer. The ability to fall in love in the wasteland, to find connection that goes beyond friendship or tactical alliance. Piper's passionate idealism, Hancock's insecure charm, Macready's awkward vulnerability, Curie's wonder at experiencing emotions for the first time. These relationships say that even in apocalypse, even when every day is a struggle, people still want intimacy, still need it. The world ended, but the human need for connection survived. Some players never romance companions. Play purely for the tactical advantages or the story content. Others form deep attachments. Get genuinely upset when companions disapprove of choices. Feel guilty betraying their trust. Both approaches are valid. But the fact that the games allow for both, that you can engage with companions as deeply or as superficially as you want, speaks to sophisticated design. The emotional investment is there if you want it. Optional if you don't. The wasteland will keep existing long after we stop playing. The companions will keep walking their routes, keep offering their quests, keep waiting for the next wanderer to come along and earn their trust. That's the nature of games. They persist, ready to be experienced again, ready to tell their stories to new players who've never heard them. But for those of us who've walked with these companions, who've heard their stories and made their choices and shared their journeys, they're more than game mechanics. They're memories, moments, feelings. That time Boone took the shot and you realized revenge wouldn't fix anything. That time Dance's world collapsed and you watched someone lose everything. That time Macready's son got the cure and you felt genuine joy for a fictional character's happiness. These moments matter, not because they're real in any physical sense, but because the emotions they provoke are real. The connections feel real. And in a medium often dismissed as mere entertainment, that's profound. Video games can make you care about people who don't exist, can make you consider moral questions you'd never face in real life, can make you understand perspectives completely alien to your own experience. The Fallout companions do all of that. Through them, we understand what it means to survive trauma, to carry guilt, to search for identity, to choose redemption over revenge, to believe in causes that seem hopeless, to keep trying when everything suggests quitting, to stay human in conditions designed to strip humanity away. And always, always, they remind us that the wasteland is crossable. The radiation won't kill you if you're careful. The raiders can be fought. The mutants can be avoided or befriended. The scarcity can be managed. Every challenge has a solution. Every problem can be solved. But only if you're not facing it alone. Only if someone has your back. Only if when you fall, someone helps you up. So here's to the companions. To every Ian and Sulik and Marcus and Cassidy. To every Boone and Veronica, and Arcade and Rawl. To every Nick and Piper and Danks and Hancock. To every Ed D and Rex and Dogmeat across every wasteland. To the robots learning to feel, and the synths questioning reality, and the mutants searching for meaning, and the humans trying not to lose themselves. Thank you for walking this journey with me, for listening to these stories, for caring about characters who exist only in code and voice acting at our collective imagination. If you enjoyed this exploration of Wasteland companionship, consider subscribing. There are more stories to tell, more corners of the post-apocalyptic world to explore, more characters whose lives intersect with ours in meaningful ways. Leave a comment telling me who you'd travel the wasteland with, who earned your trust, who broke your heart, who made you laugh or cry or think differently about what it means to survive. These discussions matter. They're how we share experiences, how we build community around stories we love. The wasteland is vast. The companions are many, but the message is singular. You are not alone. You never have to be. There's always someone willing to walk beside you, to share the burden, to make the impossible bearable and the bearable worthwhile. That's not just true in games. That's true in life. Connection is survival. Love is resistance. And choosing to care in a world that discourages caring is the bravest thing anyone can do. The sun sets over the ruins. The stars emerge, the same stars that shone before the bombs and will shine long after the wasteland heals. A fire crackles. Stories are shared. Tomorrow brings new dangers, new challenges, new reasons to keep moving. But tonight, there's rest. There's companionship. There's the simple comfort of not being alone. And somewhere out there, another wanderer is about to emerge from a vault, about to take their first steps into the wasteland, about to meet their first companion. The cycle continues. The stories repeat with variations. But the core truth remains constant. In the end, survival is a team sport. And family is whoever survives with you.